Yes, hello everyone. So this is the event to show the documentary on the Dreamweaving process, and then we will move to panel discussion, dialogue, then Q&A. If you all remember, some few months back, around the end of February, we were, for 2 months, maybe January and February, we have been in this intensive process that included close to 100, sometimes felt like a little bit more than 100 Aurovillians, and the process was very much supported by an overwhelming majority of the community. And in a way, it started as, let's try, let's hope, we were not sure what will happen. There was some friction, it was not easy. And then towards the end, something amazing happened, is that it started feeling like everything was smooth. The dialogues, it really felt hopeful and possible. So after a few months of preparation of the documentary, mainly done by Serena and team, for us, this is like, let's get back to this moment in a way. Can we remember this moment? Because sometimes some moments that we do not hold to sometimes feel like a missed opportunity. The more I remember this last moment of smooth movement, I feel like, what if we did hold to this? And maybe next time when we do something like this, we manage to hold to it. So the idea of today is to remember, to get back and remember this moment. Then we go and get our tea and relax and come for 15 minutes and come back, in which we try to bring this to the contemporary. So it simply means, what is the meaning of this moment today and what are the possibilities? Tomorrow, this will happen through a dialogue, let's say for the transparency, semi or choreographed. Like we have the basic questions, but we are also allowing for change and going a little bit out of the main message. Then we go for Q&A, and hopefully we end at 7, because I know that many people are coming well dressed for the Garba, so they can dance their way out if we have to continue answering question after 7. Yeah. Okay, thank you. I hope you enjoy the movie. Yeah, I'm sorry. The introduction of the other team that has been trying to help us through this process. As you know, through these past months, many things happened. Sometimes very difficult, but also many initiatives came, which I am so fascinated by the number of initiatives that came from the Resin Assembly through this time. And one of them is the community gathering team. And we were very impressed by the kind of events that they have been organizing. And I personally felt maybe they can help us with something that we didn't manage to do to the level we hoped for, which is to connect with a very important part of the Auroville community. And so they got involved, they offered, and they are really helping us organize this team. So with this, I introduce Induja as, so she will always try to also translate and also describe their own part in this process. Yeah, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And just like Omar said, the team who organized the June meeting and then the potluck, we are helping the Dreamweaving initiative to organize this event, mainly because we strongly believe that this process has been a very hopeful process during the time of crisis that we had, and it it brought solutions, and we want this to reach to like everybody in the community, regardless of any barrier like language and this and that. So that's why we are helping them out, and we have tried our best to reach out to everybody through different ways, and hope people are still coming in. So I hope the auditorium will be full, and many people will be here to see this beautiful process. And I will be also mainly doing translation through this whole event in Tamil. So just to put what I said now in Tamil. So நம்ம எல்லாரும் இங்கே வந்தது ரொம்ப சந்தோஷமாக இருக்குது. I hope this Tamil translation helps for our friends that are there. And முக்கியமாக இந்த மீட்டிங் வந்து நம்ம எல்லாரும் வர வச்சதுக்கு காரணம், க்ரௌன் ரோட் போடுற போது அது க்ரௌன் எப்படி அமையணும் அப்படிங்கிறதுக்கு நம்ம ஆரோவில்ல இருக்க ஆர்கிடெக்ட்ஸ், அப்புறம் பல துறையில் இருக்க டிஃப்ரெண்ட் ஃபீல்டில் இருக்க எக்ஸ்பர்ட்ஸ் எல்லாருமே, அப்புறம் ரேண்டமாக செலக்ட் பண்ண நம்ம சிட்டிசன்ஸ் எல்லாருமே பங்கேற்று நிறைய ஐடியாஸ்லாம் கொடுத்தோம். எப்படியெல்லாம் இருக்கலாம் அப்படின்னு ஒவ்வொரு இடத்துக்கும், யூத் சென்டர் அந்த மாதிரி எல்லா இடத்துலையும் எப்படி இருக்கணும் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி ஒரு ஐடியாஸ்லாம் கொடுத்துருக்கோம். ஸோ அந்த ஐடியாஸ் என்ன, இதெல்லாம் எப்படி நடந்தது ஒரு 2 மாதமாக, ஸோ இதெல்லாம் நமக்கு தெரியணும். இது வந்து எப்படின்னா இந்த க்ரௌனோட நிற்காது. இந்த ப்ராசஸ் வந்து எவ்வளோ ஒரு முக்கியமான ப்ராசஸ்னால், நம்ம மற்ற எல்லா விஷயத்துலையும் நிறைய பிளானிங் சம்மந்தமாகவும் சரி, அது தவிர கல்வி, பொருளாதாரம், இந்த மாதிரி எல்லா விஷயத்துலையும் இந்த ப்ராசஸ் அப்ளை பண்ணுறதுக்கான ஒரு வாய்ப்பு இருக்குது. ஸோ அப்படிப்பட்ட இந்த விஷயத்தை பற்றி நம்ம எல்லாருமே தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும் அப்படிங்கிறதுக்காக தான் இந்த மீட்டிங் முக்கியமாகவே வந்து கூப்பிட்டுருக்கோம். ஸோ இது மூலமாக இப்போ ஒரு மூவி காட்டுவாங்க. அந்த 2 மாதம் எப்படி கிட்டத்தட்ட ஒரு 100 பேருக்கு மேலே சேர்ந்து இந்த ஐடியாஸ்லாம் கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. ஸோ அது என்ன நடந்தது, எப்படி யாரெல்லாம் இருந்தாங்க அதை காட்டுவாங்க. அதை தொடர்ந்து ஒரு சின்ன டீ பிரேக் 15 நிமிஷம். அது கழித்து கேள்வி பதில். உங்களுக்கு என்ன கேள்விகள் இருந்தாலும் நீங்கள் வந்து அதை கேட்கலாம். உங்களுக்கு பதில் தெரியணும்னு நினச்சிங்கன்னா நீங்கள் கேட்கலாம். ஸோ இதுதான் இந்த இவெண்ட்டுக்கு எல்லாரையும் கூப்பிட்டதுக்கான காரணம். இது தாண்டி வராமல் இருக்க இன்னும் மித்த பேருக்கும் இங்கேருந்து நீங்கள் எடுத்துகிட்டு போகிற செய்தியை வந்து அவங்களுக்கு நீங்கள் தெரிவிக்கணும் அப்படின்னு நான் வந்து எல்லாரையும் கேட்டுக்கிறேன். தேங்க்யூ.
The town of Auroville near Pondicherry, known for its sense of unity and community living, has descended into chaos over the last couple of days. Auroville is an experimental township located mostly in Tamil Nadu's Viluppuram district with some parts in Puducherry. It was founded in 1968 by Mira Alfassa, known as the Mother, and designed by architect Roger Anger. Auroville is a universal town where people of all countries live together, irrespective of their creeds, politics, and nationalities. It currently has a population of about 3,000 people. The administration's move to construct a 4-kilometer road within the township to connect all 4 of its zones has led to clashes between certain sections of residents and the administration. The township feels that the new road will throw out of balance the existing ecology. The administration, on the other hand, is of the view that the road plan named Crown Project was envisaged by Alfassa and that cut trees can be replanted elsewhere within the township.
There's many different views on how we proceed forward with development in Auroville, and in the past the dream catching had been used as a way of catching and weaving together these views. When the current issue around how do we move forward with the crown, which is development of a sort of inner movement space within Auroville, a road, a street, however, came up, David and Omar saw that this could be a potential way to bring all those different stakeholders, all those different people with different views, different ideas together, and actually get some of the architects involved in trying to see actually all these different perspectives that are held towards architecture. Again, how can these weave a little bit more together to find something that's really aligned with Auroville's aspiration for working together in harmony.
It's a fantastic opportunity to build a city fully woven in a very beautiful ecosystem without losing the essence. And that's for me the key. If we accept that key and try to understand the essence of the concept, and we understand that in most cases there is no need of conflict between the essence of the concept and the ecosystem, and there will be some cases in which you have to choose. But in most cases, no. Then it's a beautiful design process that is based on collaboration and imagination and creativity and not conflict.
I just felt so much positivity, not only from me, like from my own self. I felt like this is something I can stand behind, but just everywhere we went, like suddenly, slowly, there was this kind of feeling that there's some hope. And I think this is a law of life, when there are two extremes, something extra, some third thing has to emerge. I wouldn't say neutral, but something that is completely, not this or that. And this dream weaving kind of just provided that space, and it just emerged. That's the best thing, it was not pre-planned.
I see fantastic enthusiasm for the process that has been set in place now. And I see a common direction coming out of this, emerging out of this process. And that's very important now that if you're talking about a participatory planning system, then how do you get this in place is a very important aspect. How do you carry everybody together? Because any planning process is a complicated process, because it's the dreams, aspirations and hopes of the existing community, and they're also setting up precedents for the community as it grows, of people who will come by in the future and the kinds of aspirations they will have, and their children, of course, children and grandchildren, because communities proliferate over time.
Crown is what I call the artery of Auroville. If we see the Matra Mandir as the soul, and that artery is 4.4 kilometers around, a circle, roughly a circle. It links together the four zones, residential, cultural, international and industrial zone, but it's also the link between the zones and the peace area where the Matra Mandir is. It has multiple functions that need to be integrated and need to be woven together for it to be successful. One of the problems over the years is we've started referring to it as the Crown Road. But actually the problem by doing that Obviously, we need some means of moving around the crown, and so a road would be the most obvious thing to do. But by focusing on this crown road, we've moved away from asking ourselves what the crown itself is meant to accomplish. And by building a circular crown road to link all these things together, there's a danger that it creates a barrier from the outer four zones to the inner peace area. The idea is, of course, we need to relook at this. We need to actually say, well, how do we move ahead with development and maintain the highest vision for what the crown can be, and not simply build what could ultimately be the lowest common denominator, because that's the easiest thing to do and it's the only thing we can figure out today. We do this, but by doing that, the danger is that we block future development in a deeper, wider, richer sense.
A DDP is a detailed development plan. At the moment, Auroville has the Galaxy concept, which is a sort of conceptual model, and it has the master plan, which is very detailed about sort of roads and where they will go. But it doesn't really have anything to move forward from that. So the detailed development plan is that next step. It actually kind of says, okay, this is what's going to happen in this area, and it allows people to move forward by putting in pipes, or if they're putting a building, they know what's going to be going next to it, so they can plan ahead for that. So it's really needed to be able to move forward.
Dreamweaving had been used to do the master plan for the Sustainable Livelihood Institute, and the Secretary saw this as an interesting avenue to explore within the Auroville context, so she wanted to meet me to understand a bit more about dream catching, dream weaving, what that was, what that is, and if that would be a possibility to help explore the master plan in more general terms, but the crown at least to start with.
Now, when that happened, we were very hesitant. I was very hesitant to start. David was very hesitant to start. We were actually going for no. We are not going to participate in this. But then things were escalating,
But as the youth centre got cleared, and then the Darkali started to be cleared, obviously the need for some kind of process to look at what that might look like became more and more important.
But we have to try to do it as a group of independent architects in Auroville who don't belong to any group, except we are only under the Resident Assembly.
Then we called a gathering in the Unity Pavilion of the community, and we did a presentation explaining what Dreamweaving was, what the proposal was, and the timescale, and we basically asked for a show of hands from the people present. It was very important to us to get a sense that the community, or a significant portion of the community, were behind us actually doing this. We didn't want to, with the tensions that were in the air at the time, we weren't interested in just forging ahead, believing that this was the right thing to do.
What we are asking is just to know if, based on the process, not the content, the process is the Dreamweaving, the process is the date that we have presented right now. Do you like this process or not?
Yeah. Are you happy for us to try it?
We got that show of hands. It was probably not unanimous, but it was certainly overwhelming.
When we were asked to sort of, take up this assignment, we were introduced to David, and David made a presentation about how they'd been going about dream catching and dream weaving. And I thought that's a fantastic way to go about actually having a community outreach and community participation. I sort of grabbed at the chance and said, hey, listen, can we make this as part of the process? And so I wasn't very sure at that point how this would sort of pan out, but it's been fantastic. It's been really, really a dream.
A lot of people have the sense that dream catching is about your dream or my dream, but it's not that. Of course, it's hard to distinguish, but at the end of the day, we were clearly saying, look, this is Mother's dream, and Mother's dream for what Auroville might be. Dream catching is interesting in itself because the model allows for anybody to take part. It's not just for architects, whereas the dream weaving itself is really just for people who can design.
People who have certain technical knowledge and expertise can come together and try and weave their projections, whatever they want to express through their knowledge. I mean, in this case, of course, we had architects coming up with designs for the crown, and then they could sit together and say, okay, what do we like from each other's designs? How do we weave that into a design, or what we can take from others and put it in our design?
So we were looking at how can we take that dream weaving and then expand the circle again to include other people. Omar again was working on a sort of diagram where we would have the dream weaving as one of the core pieces of that. But then there was what we ended up calling the technical team, whether it's water experts, infrastructure experts, but also all the different planning expertise that we have in Auroville. That already created a very interesting dynamic between these two, so that the idea would be that they would feed in information, the Dreamweavers would be coming up with designs using a lot of that information, and then over the course of the process there would be feedback rounds between those.
Imagine if instead we bring together ordinary people from all walks of life. These people are selected randomly, like a jury, so that they're impartial and representative. They have honest conversations and find common grounds on the actions we need to take. This is an approach known as a citizens' assembly, and it's gaining popularity all around the world as a way to solve tough problems that politicians can't.
With the Citizens' Assembly, you have randomly selected people and they look at the issues, and the purpose of that is to try and make sure that there's no people coming with strong views trying to sort of push the discussion or the debate in one way or another. With that, you normally have the experts or the presenters representing all the different perspectives, because they're normally the ones that hold this. With this, we felt there was something different because it's an issue that impacts the whole community, and some of them have very strong views and opinions. So we saw that actually, as well as having this kind of non-biased group who represent the entire community, it was also important to have in the discussions some of those who have strong perspectives from different areas of the community. So we kind of brought all of those together. But we managed to hold it with the same principles that we have with the Citizens' Assembly of being respectful, allowing everybody to speak, honouring that everybody has a different perspective, and we're not trying to shift anybody necessarily. We're just trying to see, is there something higher that can emerge that sort of brings together or weaves together all of these different aspects.
People like me who work for Auroville, we never get a chance to involve with these kind of activities. So first day for me it was a little bit confused, okay. Then I listen just 1 hour and I just observe other people. Everyone is same like me. There is nothing special. There is I felt equality, so that's very important. I was really excited to continue this. And end of this session, I got more clarity about Auroville, what is Crown, what's a galaxy.
We also had been asked by Vastu Shilpa Foundation, who are the people who the outcomes, the report will go to really help them understand what's the poetry of Auroville. You know, they can come and they can see and they can read reports and they can look at master plans. But what's really important to Auroville, you know, it's something that's a different place. It's a spiritual city. People come here for very specific reasons. So we also felt that by having a group of randomly selected participants, it would enable to really go deep into that aspect. So not just those who are caught up by their views on what should be happening. We also had some people who kind of represented different areas of the community who also will be impacted by development or may have inputs for it, such as artists, economy, education.
This is some kind of a very lifetime experience, having so many architects who have a very good understanding of Auroville, you know, who are not like also new, but rich experience here. And they've also used the plans that have been worked by other architects in the past. So they have taken as a guidance and worked to it. So it's really, we can't imagine this kind of a work being done, you know, the effort that they really put and going into very detail, you know, to see what is existing and what needs to come. So this all is a very good planning process. So I'm really happy to be this part of the process.
First Citizen Assembly was about research, and it was particularly answering a question of how can there be a participatory community process, and what is the framework, or what could be a framework for that. The goal for the last Citizen Assembly with the Dreamweaving was completely different, because the goal was very clear that we had to produce this output for the Vastu Shilpa consultants, and also the time constraint was quite obvious. We had a time frame in which we had to do this, and the third thing is also the integration of the Dreamweaving model within the Citizen Assembly model, which was very interesting.
We all have seen the Citizen Assembly work. They are seen as more neutral than almost any other group, or most groups. And this is the kind of spirit that was needed for the Dreamweaving, not to have anybody that it is seen as either true or not, but it's seen as part of lobbying or part of the groups leading to the current tension in Auroville, let's say, while the Citizen Assembly team and coordination team are actually seen as a bridging team who bring people from all kinds of colors in Auroville, well, randomly, so it has to be, and being able to establish a very positive and a very beautiful vibe between everyone.
We wouldn't have had that possibility to hold this together if we didn't have this solid support at the back. And Citizens Assembly is just such a group of dynamic people, especially women, young, and they've already worked together. The first meeting I entered, it was like such a strong team space and so organized. You know, they take up responsibility, people, you know, step in for each other when it's necessary. So that was such a support.
Why we came together was also because we wanted to learn. And that was very clear from the very beginning, that all of us want to learn about the governance system of Auroville, of finding a process that actually works. So it's probably one of the groups where we don't try and enforce or impose our opinion, because we are very open. We receive whatever is there, and also we receive something which probably doesn't come from any of us, and we try to receive something from outside. And so it's a very dynamic, fluid team, and it's been a joy to work with everyone.
But we're trying to use this opportunity, this sort of storm that's been thrown up, to move forwards together. And we're not able to stop either we don't know if JCBs are going to go again. We tried early on to say we can only do this if there are no JCBs, but we don't know. We're not in a position to guarantee anything. And just for the other side, we're not in a position to guarantee whether the Green Tribunal continues or whether other avenues continue. So we're standing in this, trying to stand in this calm middle.
A good brief is always not stopping innovation. A good brief is always opening innovation. So the complexity here was how to open innovation with these constraints. And some of them are very reasonable, but some of them are not sensible.
When this idea of bringing together architects in Auroville to work on this was put forth, this need for a brief was obvious. And at that point, I think the TDC was supposed to come up with a brief, and then they had discussions, or they were not able to do that.
And we were actually waiting for a brief from L'Avenir for 2 or 3 months, and it never came. And it was at that time, actually, it was around that time then that the youth centre did get raised. And so then the question is, well, how do we move on? It's very important that a collective process like Dreamweaving is done in a peaceful atmosphere. So we were trying to imagine, well, even if this brief comes, or if we do write this brief together with L'Avenir, how do we even invite people to be part of a collective process? It's all volunteers. People aren't being paid to do it. And so if there's a lot of tension in the community, then nobody's going to step forward to take part in this process. So it was actually rather interesting that at the same time, the Green Tribunal created the stay order, because that actually, no matter how one looks at it, positively or negatively, it created a peaceful atmosphere within which to do the Dreamweaving. It was actually Omar who helped to write the brief, both with Srivatsa from L'Avenir and with Vastu Shilpa, who by that time were already also on the scene, as it were, in the picture.
And the process that we are following is ideal. The dream catchers, for example, everybody participates and everybody gives ideas, and slowly an image comes. In planning, this is really how it happens. Ideas don't come suddenly. When they come, they are not homogeneous. Sometimes they are not harmonious. Sometimes they are contradictory. But over discussions, because we are talking about lifestyle, we are talking about we are living, etc., economies, realities, social conditions, and we take time. But in the end, this group idea, working together, is very good because everybody feels responsible and a lot of new ideas come.
The architects or the community here should be able to give some input about what is life here and what are we here for. So the brief was predominantly about that, and of course outlining what is the need for this work right now, which highlighted the galaxy vision, the master plan perspective 2025, the main documents, and then highlighted 12 design challenges, starting from finding a synthesis between the galaxy vision and the master plan. There were factors about bioclimatic design, an urban farm. There was one about water. There was one about scale and proportions. There was one about mobility.
And moving from there into an exploration, and of course each architect brings their own way of doing that. Some people are more focused on design aspects, some people are more focused on the practical aspects and so forth. We got a very interesting overview from the different architects already just by doing that. But they just started with all those documents and sort of saw where they went from there.
So it was about finding the right wording, basically. So, for example, the master plan as a gazetted is written in the brief that it is accepted as the starting point, of course, But the aim is not the master plan. This is not the end of the process. This is accepted as a starting point. Understanding is flexibility, which if you read the master plan document, it actually very open document that opened the door to respect the realities on the ground and to study and to even modify the document. Take this to the original vision, which was very clear in the physical model prepared between 66 and 68. And to hold to that essence, basically, while respecting realities on the ground.
When it goes to parks, and this is what I feel sometimes missing, when it goes to park, you find an indication of continuity of water, and when we work on concept design, we make these assumptions. It doesn't mean necessarily there will be water exactly here, but it means continuity of the ecosystem. And when you work in places like this, you have to establish double continuity of the crown experience and continuity of the ecosystem. And see, this is the kind of sensibility that it is needed when you approach a problem like this, not to cancel the continuity of the crown experience, but also not to cancel the continuity of the ecosystem, and not to see them as opposed to each other. Instead, to see them as for me, it's just a fantastic design challenge.
So from that point on, that was kind of the starting gun, if you like. And so pretty much within 2-3 days, we already did a crown walk at 6 o'clock in the morning with the architects who'd stepped forward to take part. So that was just to get a lay of the land and get a sense of what we're dealing with. So as Lavinia then got together the plans and provided us with the information needed, at least to start sketching, designing and so forth, it slowly sort of built up over the next week or two.
We were not as hopeful when we started as we are now, because there were a lot of questions, doubtful and all these things. But then we went on, because every step of it, every coming together, every meeting that we had with each other, all the discussions gave us a little bit of spark to move forward.
This is something which has to be protected in the city, but it must be safe, of course. You must be able to let down your guard, otherwise you will be overrun by cars or things like this. This is the complete absence of cars. A lot of possibilities can happen on streets. We still call the crown a road. I'm always very much taken aback by it. It still happens today. People talk about the Crown Road. Yeah, this leads to these wonderful places which are tourist attractions in medieval towns. But unfortunately, the situation in our cities, very much in Indian cities also, although there it is very much on the brink also. This is a shared space. When I look at Gandhi's and Nehru Street in Pondy, it's absolutely amazing what can happen there, because the battle between pedestrians and cars is not yet won by the car, but they fight each other. So something could be done there, and it would be quite an interesting street.
The process itself took place over 2 months. So we started with a series of technical presentations which gave the background, and these were intended to give the architects who were the Dreamweavers the information that they needed to be able to do their task. These were also recorded and live streamed to the wider community, because many people are interested in this topic, so it gave this real background for many people.
This is the capital of Kerala. I don't know what the canopy cover is there, but it looks significantly more. Their density is 4,500 people per square kilometer. Here, including the green belt. So if we're not separating the city from the green belt, we'd be getting 2,500 per square kilometer. So it's just to show that, we can have green and we can have people and we can have population.
We were also invited to attend all the lectures that were presented by the experts. And I think that was a good way to understand the various layers that have been part of Auroville since long, and including the amount of work that has been done till now. And it was a good way to look at the knowledge which is existing here. And so it really briefed us.
How many water bodies, how many, all interconnected, how rich is this land? How beautiful is it to have a possibility to integrate water, which is a life-giving gift, into our activities, into our human activities. 1,200 years ago, in Tamil Nadu, there are more than 45,000. In Chennai, there were 186. Today, there are only 26. Can we just learn from the local culture?
And from that, the architects then had 2 or 3 weeks to be working on their designs before they came up with the first weave. So the first weave was sort of them presenting in teams, so 8 or 9 teams presenting, and then getting feedback from other architects on the things that they really liked, things that they would like to copy. And also they could share if there was something that they didn't think would work technically, but not saying, I don't like that because of design standards. But yeah, if they could see there was something that needed to be addressed or improved, then they could give that. So they did that once as a closed session, so that they could just really build that connection with each other and that understanding. And it's also quite a lot to present the first time and get that feedback. So that was a closed session. And then 2 weeks later, they had the first big weave, which was open to all of the participants.
That was the first time where really the Citizens' Assembly truly kicked in with all of its experience with the random selection, helping people. There was even before the session, smaller sessions where randomly selected people could get bias training and see how they're, how they're bringing their own perspective and how that can narrow one's understanding of what's being shown and things like this.
One of the things we purposely did in this process, when we looked at the list of people who were sort of experts and people who maybe had the strong opinions and the people who were kind of representing sectors, we just asked a question around age. There was only sort of 1 or 2 people, maybe under 40, in the list of people that we had there. And we saw that, when we're talking about the future of Auroville and how we want to move forward, we really need to be engaging more of the youth. So in this one, we purposely then looked for some young representatives of different aspects, so younger entrepreneurs, people working in services, younger people working in education, and brought them in, and even some students from the schools. So we weren't sure how that worked, but the engagement was really good, and the feedback from many of the participants was that they'd like to see even more focus on youth in the sessions and decision-making going forward.
The need was to actually bring as many voices as possible to the table. And it would not have been possible to do that with just randomly selected people. More than the community members in general, the technical experts would have a very strong opinion about this. So it was very important that they come to the table and they participate in this and they are actually able to give feedback. The second was focus groups, which were people from different areas of work, for example, bioregion, education, youth for Auroville, etc., etc. So their interests are also then taken into account. And then, of course, there was the randomly selected group. So I think all of these different groups, they added a layer to the feedback and gave a very specific feedback also from their own perspective, which was very valuable to the architects to understand what the community in general wants, a representation of that, and also specific groups, what are they looking for? And all this feedback really helped the architects to then factor that into their designs.
And this was 2 days. So the first day, Again, the architects presented their updated designs. There were 11 teams. And then the next day we had a chance for all of the participants to engage with the architect teams. They basically went round in small groups. We had sort of technical and peers going round in the morning, and other architects could visit each other's tables and had sort of 15 minutes or so to share their thoughts and their ideas on what they liked and didn't. And then in the afternoon we had the randomly selected groups, and each one went round all 11 tables. And then following that, the final step, the architects then took all of that information on board, and then they presented their final designs in the last weave. And then the second day, the participants got a chance to just really go a little bit in depth. There was some guided meditation, some way for them to just kind of sit and absorb what they heard and then interact in a much freer way, just going to whichever architects they wanted to, asking questions, listening, looking at the designs, and then after that they filled in their feedback on which aspects of which designs they liked and why.
Ideally, one would keep going until one had a design that everybody can agree to. Both the time scale and the scale of the work that was being requested, neither of those two things actually allowed us to get to that place.
I think it's very good that time frames are there. That there are limitations in time, but it also needs to be more realistic. There's a lot of architects, there's a lot of input. I think it would need to be much more in sort of smaller chunks. On the other hand, I think it's great that there's so many people, working together, because you get so many, and you see that from the presentations. Every single presentation is different, and it's bringing in a completely different point of view, and that's very important.
And that's the beauty of dream catching and dream weaving. You can actually you can flow with it and grow with it and see what comes in, because there's so much potential with the team. When you allow things, when you create that safe space, there's so much that comes out. And I think that's a very important thing also to say, that what we created was a safe space, and also, like somebody said, it was a healing space. Because I think a lot of times we hurt each other a lot, and because we're a small community, we're very critical towards each other. And especially at a time like this, when our community is kind of divided in ways of understanding how we want to go ahead, then I think this space that we created was very healing for some people as well, and maybe for community at large.
There was a lot of listening happening. For the first time in 3 months, I felt like in a place, but not in a space of anxiety or frustration. So I felt really like a space to dream.
The whole process was about weaving, and that's multifold concept. I mean, weaving the ideas coming from the architects in the Dreamweaving team, but also weaving their ideas with the experts who has produced lots of research and has shown all of the research in the first 3 days conference, commencing conference, and weaving the original vision of Auroville with the ecosystem and the realities on the ground. So these are the 3 weaves to me. The process was designed around the architects are proposing an idea, and then they get reflections, and then they modify significantly. So at the end, the work is not representing the architect, the work is actually manifestation of sounds coming from Auroville that goes to the Vastu Shilpa. And then hopefully the Vastu Shilpa will come to us for other reflections. It doesn't stop here. If we cannot use that street or use this plaza, then it's not a good quality design, right? At the end, it has to fit the needs of the users.
What stood out was the environmental and ecological concerns that everybody had, and the concerns of social cohesion, tying up the social factors that bring up about community spaces, brings about public spaces. I think these were some things that were common to all of them.
I learn a lot, and I go back to a lot of important things. I read again what Roger Anger envisioned for the galaxy. I read again the chart of Auroville, so it was quite good for me as a Aurovillian also to reconnect with the core of my existence in Auroville.
So our job is to now, the work that the architects have done, we need to put it together somehow and offer it to the Vastu Shilpa consultants, and also bring it back to the community. It's not easy. It's a lot of information, and the challenge that we have is really to how to make it meaningful.
So now we're at a point where we're working on doing a dream space, which will pick out some of the key aspects from the different designs. But the beauty of doing this dream space now is, because we can't have a unified scheme from the architects, but we still want to maintain the aspect of anonymity, because all the architects agreed at the very beginning that the work they're doing, they will not put their name on it, and it's an offering. And so to, again, move away from 6, 8, 10 different presentations, find a way to capture the ideas without having a name or a face to any given idea, and then all of that goes into the final report, along with the feedback from all of the residents and the people who were involved in the process, and that will go to Vastu Shilpa Foundation to be used in their work on the DDP over the next 9 months. There was the discussion of continuing to use these types of collective processes as the DDP is ongoing. So for right now, the crown was the focus, but assuming that time and energy and maybe financial support would be there for those architects and for other architects to take part in further dream weavings. One could do it on each of the zones, could do it on the green belt and various things, and that could all continue to help Vastu Shilpa flesh out and deepen the quality of the DDP that they're doing.
Before I started, I wasn't aware of the beauty that places like Darkali have to offer. Also, so many things about the galaxy plan, which just somehow popped up while working and while listening to each other. How cohesive it is, and yet how we can take out various ways of slowly bringing that cohesivity. How a part and a whole relate to each other, and how they need to relate to each other. How reality and vision both exist and coexist at the same time, and how we have to find paths that kind of bring them together.
So there's several outcomes to the process. I think for some people they expected, okay, there's just going to be one design, one winning design. And maybe at the start of the process, it could have been that we thought that as well. But as it emerged, and as we spoke to the Vastu Shilpa team who are going to be using the outcomes for the DDP, we saw, okay, that's not really what's needed in this case. It's not one design that's just going to be built there and then that's it. All of the architects were addressing very different aspects of the crown. So some were looking at mobility, some were looking at the green spaces, some were looking at the built form, and some were sort of looking at how different zones merge into other zones. And so there's so many different aspects that we decided, rather than asking people, okay, which design do you like most, and sort of putting that through as a winning design, to really capture this depth and breadth, we needed to be looking at which ideas spoke to people on different aspects. So, for example, the DDP will look at what the human aspect is like or what water is like. So we were asking people which of the ideas and designs really resonate with you on those design aspects and why. The key output will be the final designs, all 11 of them from the team, and then a narrative report, which explains both the process and then a summary of all of the feedback from the participants, sort of identifying the key features that they like and why they like those. So it's quite a dense output that will go, but hopefully something really that will give that poetry to Vastu Shilpa Foundation and that real understanding of what's needed by the community, what our aspirations are, and they can use that to move forward.
And the next thing about challenges is fear. Fear often inhibits us. Fear, do we dare to reach out to our neighbor? Do we dare to reach out to other experts, come together, collaborate, and so forth? But there's also the fear somewhere, and I understand this very well. The people who've lived here the longest, the people who were here at the beginning, a lot of the people who worked with Roger, there's the fear that this vision will be lost. And I fully understand that, I get it. But the danger in this is that if we don't reach out to look for help, to build the vision, we lose the very thing that we're afraid of losing.
A few things that this process did. One of them was to bring out all the information that was just lying, and we were all referring to it while we were fighting and arguing, but nobody really knew what it was. So it brought to the table all those studies, all that work that had been done from the people who had been involved in doing this work, and now it's all collected in one place, and those presentations are there, so anybody can go back and refer to them.
Like, this is really big part of the work that is needed to be done. It has already been achieved by many experts in Auroville. Amazingly, they have been doing it as contribution. Like, how many places you can find this, no? You will find lots of studies on planning, lots of studies on regional planning, lots of studies on water, lots of studies on energy and electrical systems. And all of this is brought to them ready. Actually, very high concentration of expertise in Auroville. Almost unusual for 3,000 inhabitants. The closest would be a university. But we don't have all capacities. And this is very important to recognize.
That's been quite a revelation, that how such a small set of small community produces excellence. That's, I think, amazing. From this would emerge not only ideas that would inform the planning process, but also it'll give an idea about short-term goals. I think there's some things, what we call low-hanging fruit. How do we sort of get that quickly so that the enthusiasm continues?
I was amazed at the kind of creativity and also at the amount of time that people put in. So on that I really loved. In terms of ideas, yes, of course, we know in Auroville we are like, very creative, idealist, people who come from so many different backgrounds. So I was quite amazed like how people took a thread and like ran with it, and very different, very diverse. And it was amazing to see that we could create this in such a short time.
The experience a human has got through this process the opportunities that it gave through this process is never going to be taken away from me. So same for whomever has participated. That I felt is very much needed for us, and it will reflect somewhere in the progress of Auroville.
So the first design challenge that we asked people to respond to was grounding the vision. So this was how much it synthesized and grounded the principles of the master plan and the essence of the 1968 vision model known as the galaxy. So in this one, the idea or design that resonated with most of the respondents was the need for sensitivity to an integration of context and ground realities, such as the bioregion and the canyons. And reasons given for this were that if we can synthesize this, people and nature, in a practical way, then we can start work immediately. So the second design challenge that people responded to was the human experience. This is really about how we create spaces for meaningful human experiences on a social, a cultural, and a spiritual level. So here the idea that resonated most strongly with most people was really around this creation of safe and inclusive spaces and paths. Noted quite a lot was for children and for elderly, but also for everyone. And again, reasons for this were to keep safe the youth that never ages. So this was asking people to think about how we can offer a diversity of experiences, yet retain continuity on the crown. Looking at things like different zones, times of day and year, and visual interest. So here specifically, what came up most was really this need for this variety of experiences, zones, buildings, materials, widths, and landscaping. And reason given for this was really to create rich experience, a living expression of Auroville's unity in diversity. The next design challenge was around dimensions and proportions, so trying to find creative solutions for these challenges of width and scale on and along the crown. And here the idea or design that resonated most with people was about the need for the crown to change width according to the surroundings in order to minimize the impact in sensitive areas, help to kind of reduce and manage the traffic, and reduce monotony. The reasons given for this were to create a range of experiences and to enable the crown to really have this sense of breathing in and breathing out. So the next design challenge was around mobility, connections, and permeability. So looking at how we really solve those challenges of Auroville, how we move around to enable sustainable conscious movement. So here the top idea that sort of resonated most was around the need for public transport systems, these electric shuttles, electric buses, etc. And reasons given for this were around the fact that it could be an immediate action and it would help to reduce traffic, change mobility habits, and increase social interaction. So the next design challenge was the bioclimatic principles in urban form, so designing with the sun, the wind, the topography, water flow, flora and fauna of the region. So very strongly, this one came very strongly across all the groups, was the need for the shade throughout the day and across the whole year, from trees, buildings on stilts, overhangs, orientation, and other structures. So the next design challenge was around water, so how we consider the flows of water as a solution for our water security, as well as a spatial experiential element. So here again, there was really strong resonance across all of the groups for prioritizing the creation and conservation of water catchment areas. And this came across in many ways, in systems integrated into buildings and urban form in a joyful way, prioritizing the natural water catchment areas. So the next design challenge was around city of nature, so the integration of the built spaces, both solids and voids, with natural ecosystems. So here, the idea that resonated most was this need to really synthesize city and nature. So people responded saying that they saw nature and city as inseparable and wanted to see an ever-changing interaction of built-up green-blue spaces.
From a point in the community where everything was quite bleak and people were full of anger and frustration, and I mean at that point it was very hard to understand what would be the next step for anybody, to a point where there was a lot of creativity, expression of what could be, and also a lot of joy and laughter and some hope. I think there's been some considerable progress, and where now this goes is something we have to see, but I think it has value for the community to come together and to work on something positive and not just talk about it. That has immense value. So
it was an interesting experience for me this time, because before, when we'd been doing a citizens' assembly, we had a sort of model that had been used elsewhere, and we were trying to replicate that and adjust it a little bit for Auroville. With this time, it was quite different. We were bringing together a model that had previously been used, the Dreamweaving in Auroville, and blending that with the citizens' assembly, and this hadn't been done anywhere in the world before. So it was really an experiment, but I feel that we managed to evolve a process that, with some further tweaking and some refining, could be used in many areas in Auroville and elsewhere.
If we see the openness to people working together on common designs, it's kind of a no-brainer for a place which has been founded on the concept of human unity, that we find ways to work together to manifest it. By investing time in these processes, you actually get buy-in from the participants and from the wider community, which ultimately, in my view, speeds up the implementation later. So my hope would be that we realize the need for it, and we realize that it is an investment of time and energy which ultimately saves a lot of time and energy further down the road. It's impossible for me to imagine the integral yoga being connected to anything that's short-sighted. There's no argument, in my view, to go for anything that isn't that, because it's giving us the depth, and it's giving us the richness, and it's giving us the quality that we're actually looking for.
And then all of this, to me, concludes into one simple hope. With all of this data collected, with all of this work, and this is my last hope here, is that we shift from this conflict-based narrative, because I'm a designer, I cannot see things in any different way. For us, it's always, there's function and there's form. You do form, function is not working, you do function, form is not working and is not so beautiful, and then you do both, and then suddenly there's no good structure, and it's so complex how to get all together, how to integrate. Design is by default is a profession to integrate. And I wonder, when are we going to leave from this conflict narrative to enjoy? There is an ecosystem, there's social conditions, there's topography, there is a vision. Why don't we just enjoy making them work together? And this is, my last hope is that we all shift. And there is a recognition, a total recognition that we shift from this to that different place in which let's enjoy, integrate, right?
Yeah, I really think that if this becomes a blueprint for something longer and larger in Auroville, I think we really have something in hand which a lot of people in many parts of the world would be very happy to see. So that's my dream. I think that we can do it. I think that if we, the DDP, the Detailed Development Plan that Vastu Shilpa is hopefully going to take on board for the whole of Auroville, I hope that they will use this as a tool to take, to really bring down how to bring down this amazing galaxy, plan that we have, a master plan, and this image, or, whatever. People have all different kinds of interpretations of it. How to get it onto the ground without losing, what it represents for us. That if we can manage to do it in a level which is aspirational, which is idealist, but yet grounded. This is always the struggle, how to bring it in a way that is true to Auroville, true to what we stand for.
When we counted those who have participated in Dreamweaving actively, either as organizers, designers, experts, focus group, randomly selected, peers, it comes close to 100. The narrative about Auroville is they cannot work together, they are always in conflict. In very small cases, it's true. In the majority of cases, when you look at the middle of Auroville, good people with high capacities, with lots of will to contribute in full service, and we just wanted to shake this false narrative, let's say. Instead, we have the right to create our own narrative. And the whole process was about this.
If you think of the aim of Auroville, it's all about all of us coming together and be filled with self-giving. And that self-giving and that wholeness of self-giving gives birth to this collective realization, to this fraternity of collaboration. So what's been wonderful is to see the level of collaboration with all the people.
This is really significant. I mean, imagine if after 1 year, 1.5 years, we have a working DDP that links the vision and the ground the vision. Many of our problems will not exist anymore. We are in a much better place.
But more importantly, it would be about a process of how people participated. And that in itself would be a great beacon for the ways that towns and cities grow. Because I think one of the things that misses out, the present planning process misses out, is completely involving people in a manner that actually gets implemented.
We need a process that allows envisioning as separate from that which admins and as separate from that which implements. And I know this is not a new idea in Auroville. That's the thing, we have always have ideas, but how much of it and where are we in that circle of reinventing something? So can we, do something which allows this to happen, that, L'avenir d'Auroville can actually be the future of Auroville, that does the envisioning, that allows all this participation to happen, to take forward everything, and helps us in the path rather than, creating impediments. So this is a very difficult topic, but we are still hopeful that if everything goes right and if Vastu Shilpa is on board and the secretary is also, supporting the fact that what we have agreed upon and that the ATDC is going to do what it has said, then we are still hopeful that some of these ideas will be taken forward, that there will be next steps to this, and we'll manage to go forward. But this is one of our problems, in Auroville in general. And this was also our fear when we started, that again, this should not enter a drawer, one more report in the thousands of beautiful reports that we make, but really it should go forward. And we hope that it is the right moment.
The Southern Bench of the National Green Tribunal has directed the Auroville Foundation not to cut down any more trees for the Crown Road project until a joint committee, appointed by it, conducts an inspection of the planned site and submits a report. The NGT also directed the Foundation to prepare a proper township plan and obtain environmental clearance before undertaking construction in the project area, earmarked for establishing an international township.
Yes. I request you all to be seated for just 2 more minutes. We have an announcement to make. And I hope you all really enjoyed the whole movie. And for me personally, it was very connecting, and I hope for you all also. And this is how connecting it could be, the city that we will build. So this kind of processes are very important. And there was a question about way forward. We don't know, there is an uncertainty about where this will go. So like as a step that the community gathering team, we would like to put an effort which is towards the way forward. We don't know whether it will be, where it will go. With the detachment to the outcome, we are presenting a statement. Suresh, can you put the, yeah. So we are presenting to you all a simple statement, and I would also like to invite some of the friends from the community gathering team, because it is the community's responsibility. The Dreamweaving team has done a wonderful job, and it is our responsibility that we make an attempt to, get this going somehow. So we thought we should, Suresh, can you, So we are presenting a very simple statement, which we thought you would all be willing to support. And we would like to collect the support in the form of feedback and your signatures, which will be like, there will be a team sitting out there with the statement, and also a sheet to sign, and also some sheets to give your feedback, written feedback, and a Google form will also be circulated further. You can extend your support through this. And what we are thinking to do with this support and the feedback is to compile it and send it to the governing board, and make an appeal that this needs to be incorporated in the planning of the Crown, because we see that the implementation of Crown is happening. So that is going to be our appeal. So I would just read out the statement once. We extend our fullest support to the collaborative process that held in Auroville, Dreamweaving the Auroville Crown 2022, to bring together a pool of ideas for the Crown to be integrated into the detailed development plan for Auroville. We support that the output from the process should be integrated in further planning and implementation of the Crown in Auroville. We also agree that the Dreamweaving process should be applied for other planning areas and various other topics in Auroville in the way forward. I'll just translate the same into Tamil. நீங்கள் எல்லாரும் இந்த ஒரு 1 hour டாக்குமெண்ட்ரி பார்த்து கண்டிப்பாக நிறைய விஷயம் தெரிஞ்சிருப்பீங்க. என்னெல்லாம் நடந்தது, யாரெல்லாம் அதில் பங்கேற்றிருந்தாங்க அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு. உங்கள் எல்லாருக்கும் எனக்கு பர்சனலாக பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ரொம்ப என்னால் அது ரொம்ப கனெக்டிங்காக இருந்தது. ஐ திங்க் உங்களுக்கும் அந்த மாதிரி இருந்திருக்கும்னு நம்புகிறோம். இந்தளவுக்கு ஒரு கனெக்ஷனோட, இந்தளவுக்கு ஒரு தொடர்போடு தான் இந்த சிட்டியை கட்டுறதுக்கான ஒரு வாய்ப்பு நம்மக்கிட்ட இருக்குது. அதை இந்த மாதிரியான ஒரு ட்ரீம் வீவிங் ப்ராசஸ் உருவாக்கி கொடுத்துருக்கு. ஸோ இதை எப்படி நம்ம முடிஞ்சது, இதை எப்படி வருங்காலத்தில் இப்போ செயல்முறையில் எப்படி கொண்டு வருது அப்படின்னு பார்த்தா ஆக்சுவலி நம்மக்கிட்ட பதில் இல்லை. அது எந்த நிலமையில் இருக்குது அப்படின்னு நமக்கு தெரியல, அதை எடுத்துக்கிறாங்களா இல்லையான்னு. ஸோ ஒரு சின்ன எஃபர்ட் இந்த கம்யூனிட்டி கேதரிங் அதெல்லாம் ஆர்கனைஸ் பண்ண இந்த டீம், நம்மளோட கம்யூனிட்டி சார்பாக இந்த ஒரு சின்ன ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட்டை உங்கள் எல்லோரும் முன்னாடியே வைக்கிறோம். இது மூலமாக என்னென்னா உங்களோட சப்போர்ட் சிக்னேச்சர் மூலமாகவோ நீங்கள் ஏதாவது விரிவாக சொல்லணும்னு நினச்சிங்கன்னா, உங்களுடைய ஃபீட்பேக் எல்லாம் விரிவாக நீங்கள் சொல்லணும்னு நினச்சிங்கன்னா வெளியில் கொஞ்சம் பேப்பர்ஸ் இருக்குது. தத்தியானா ஜியோவானி அப்புறம் கொஞ்சம் நம்ம ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ் எல்லோரும் இருப்பாங்க. ஸோ நீங்கள் அதில் எழுதி உங்களோட ஃபீட்பேக் எல்லாத்தையுமே கொடுக்கலாம். இதை வச்சு என்ன பண்ண போகிறோன்னா, கவர்னிங் போர்ட் அவங்களுக்கும் ஐஏசி அவங்க எல்லாருக்குமே வந்து இவ்வளோ சப்போர்ட் இருக்குது. இது வந்து எந்த வகையிலையும் இந்த சைடு அந்த சைடு அதெல்லாம் குறிக்கிற எந்த விஷயமும் கிடையாது. இது வந்து நம்ம எல்லாரையும் தாண்டி, நம்ம முகங்கள் நம்மளோட இது எல்லாரையும் தாண்டி நம்ம காட்டினோம் இல்லையா, என்ன நடந்தது, எவ்வளோ அழகாக ஒரு சில விஷயங்கள் ஒன்று சேர்ந்தது, எவ்வளோ அழகாக ஒரு விஷயம் அதுலேருந்து வெளியில் வந்தது. ஸோ அதை மட்டுமே நம்ம சப்போர்ட் பண்ணுறதுக்காக இந்த விஷயம் செய்யலான்னு நினைக்கிறோம். நான் அந்த என்ன ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட்டுங்கிறத நான் ஒரு தடவை படித்து காட்டுறேன். ஆரோவில்லுக்கான விரிவான வளர்ச்சி திட்டங்களில் ஒருங்கிணைப்பதற்காக கிரவுன் சாலைக்கான பரிந்துரைகளின் திரட்டை உருவாக்க ஆரோவில்லில் நடந்த ட்ரீம் வீவிங் தி ஆரோவில் கிரவுன் 2022 என்ற ஒரு கூட்டு முயற்சியை நாங்கள் முழுமையாக ஆதரிக்கிறோம். அதன் வெளிப்பாடுகளை கிரவுன் சாலையின் திட்டங்கள் மற்றும் செயல்பாட்டில் ஒருங்கிணைக்க வேண்டும் என்பதையும் ஆதரிக்கிறோம். மேலும் ஆரோவில்லில் ட்ரீம் வீவிங் முறை மற்ற நகர திட்டப் பணிகளிலும் மற்றும் பல்வேறு துறை பணிகளிலும் செயல்முறைப்படுத்தப்பட வேண்டும் என்பதையும் ஆதரிக்கிறோம். ஸோ இதுதான் அந்த ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட். இதை ஒருவேளை நீங்கள் ஆதரிக்கணும்னு நினச்சிங்கன்னா வெளியில் வந்து அந்த ஷீட்ஸ் இருக்குது, உங்கள் பேர் உங்கள் டீட்டெயில்ஸ் அதில் எழுதிட்டு யூ கேன் சைன் பண்ணலாம். ஸோ இதை நம்ம சேர்த்து அனுப்புவோம். நல்லதுக்காக நம்ம இது பண்ணுறோம். ஸோ நல்லதையே நினைப்போம். இது வழியாக ஒரு நல்ல விஷயம் நடக்கும் அப்படின்னு ஒரு நம்பிக்கையோடு பண்ணுவோம். தேங்க்யூ. தேங்க்யூ. There is a 15 minutes tea break. There are tea and some snacks outside. And we would like to request you to come back into the room after the short tea break. And we will have the panel discussion and the Q&A to continue. ஸோ 15 நிமிஷம் டீ பிரேக் இருக்குது. வெளியில் போயிட்டு நம்ம திரும்பி உள்ளே வரலாம். உங்களோட கேள்விகள், உங்களுக்கு தெரியாத நிறைய விஷயங்கள், நீங்கள் பகிர்ந்துக்கணும்னு நினைக்கிற விஷயங்கள் எல்லாத்தையுமே வந்து நம்ம மறுபடியும் உள்ளே வந்து செய்யலாம். தேங்க்யூ.
Ancillary stuff. Exactly. $64 question we just mentioned is, where is it now with Vastu Shilpa? And it's going to be asked anyway. Do you want me to add that on to the as a fourth question? Or let that? Yeah. What's happened with Dream? You wait for it to be. If not, I mean, it's just a question. It's the obvious. No, they don't. No, they don't. That's not true. And there's all kind of rumors going on. This should have been discussed. I know.
So welcome back, everybody. There are one or two people fewer. It's very lonely up here. Would it be possible that some of you could come forward a little bit, give us a feeling that we're not speaking to the universe, which we are, of course, but perhaps some of you could just come down a little bit towards the front. It's we won't rush you or anything like that. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and could the lighting people reduce the light a little? It's a bit like third degree up here at present. Okay. I'll do it after the... Okay. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, that feels better. Just a quick announcement regarding the film. It's actually on YouTube now, if people actually want to see it again. Okay, it's already... It will be put on Aurora's Eye on YouTube. So this is the question-answer part. We've assembled a very eminent panel here. Obviously, we have the three key people, the core team, basically, of Dreamweaving, which you saw from the film. That's Mona, David, and Omar. David and Mona, of course, were involved in dream catching before, so they had a lot of experience. David is a member of the Citizens' Assembly as well. Omar, of course, has some vast experience. And all of them, to a certain extent, have been involved in developments after the Dreamweaving finished, which we will also talk about. We think there'll be a lot of questions, but we thought just to kick it off, I would ask them three key questions, which will cover a lot of ground, which maybe will save a lot of time in terms of further questions further on. And then I'll open it for the whole group here, the audience, to ask whatever you wish. And we will stay as long as necessary to get everything answered. Is that okay with everybody? Good, all right. So let me just begin with the first question. After around 8 months of this experience shown in the documentary, what remains? Can each of you share one learning which you believe has been gained of long-term value, which can survive turbulent times?
No, I think this is good. I would actually hark back to what Induja was saying during the documentary, and that is that actually for anybody of us who took part in that process, that can't be taken away, that we changed the narrative, that we actually showed that Aurovillians can work together. And whatever has or hasn't happened with the Dreamweaving since then, it's still alive. And actually it's very touching to see what Serena has done with all the footage and put that together in this documentary, to watch that now, quite a few months later, but to realize that somewhere inside me, just as Induja was saying, it's very much actually alive as a potential and as a goal, as an aim as to what we can do as a community.
ஸோ ஆலன் வந்து ஒரு சில கொஷின்ஸை அவரே வந்து இவங்கள்ட்ட கேட்குறாரு. ஏன்னா அந்த கொஷின்ஸ் நம்ம எல்லாருக்கும் பொதுவானதாக இருக்கும் மோஸ்ட்லி. ஸோ அதனால் இப்போது ஒரு சில கொஷின்ஸ் அவரே கேட்க ஆரம்பிக்கிறாரு. முதல் கேள்வி என்னென்னா, இந்த எல்லா ப்ராசஸ்லேருந்தும் எது வந்து இன்னும் எல்லார் மனசுலையும் இருக்குது, இன்னும் எது வந்து உயிர்ப்போட இருக்குது அப்படின்னு கேட்டார். ஸோ டேவிட் சொன்னார், அந்த வீடியோவில் இருக்க ஒருத்தவங்க சொன்ன மாதிரி அந்த ப்ராசஸில் நம்ம எப்படியெல்லாம் ஒன்று சேர்ந்து ஒர்க் பண்ணோம், என்னெல்லாம் அந்த சூழ்நிலை வந்து அவ்வளோ ஈஸியானதாக இல்லை. அந்த நேரத்துலையும் நம்ம எவ்வளோ அழகாக அதை சேர்ந்து எல்லோரும் ஒர்க் பண்ணி ஒரு அழகான விஷயத்தை கொண்டு வந்தோம். ஸோ அது வழியாக நமக்கு கிடைச்ச அந்த அனுபவம் இருக்கு இல்லையா, அது வந்து எப்போவுமே உயிர்ப்போடு இருக்கும். அந்த உயிர்ப்பான அனுபவம் வந்து ஆரோவில்லை முன்னெடுத்தி கொண்டு போகும்போது நமக்கு ஹெல்ப் பண்ணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறார்.
So for me, what has remained still after this 6 months, and which I still hold dear to me, is the fact that the joy that we had in those months of working together and the collective effort that we could make in terms of collaboration. And very important that we managed to do it without copyrights. So for us, that's a great thing, that we can give our creative inputs without being attached to it, and which I feel is in the spirit of Auroville. And lastly, I feel that we managed to create a safe space, which I think is very important. And I feel now we have something in our backpack that says we can do it again if necessary, to heal the community, and which I think is very important right now. So that's something that's very close to me, and I hope we will use this process further in Auroville.
ஸோ அவங்க என்ன சொல்கிறாங்கன்னா, முக்கியமான விஷயம் எல்லோரும் ஒன்று சேர்ந்து செய்தது. அதுக்கப்புறம் இதை செய்த ஒவ்வொருத்தரும் அது என்னோடது, அது நான் சொன்னது அப்படிங்கிற அந்த உரிமை எடுத்துக்காமல் இது நம்ம கம்யூனிட்டிக்காக அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு எல்லோரும் செய்து கொடுத்தது. ஸோ அவங்க அதை வந்து ரொம்ப ஒரு புதுமையான விஷயம் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி ஃபீல் பண்ணுறாங்க. அதே மாதிரி இது பல விஷயங்களில் இந்த ப்ராசஸை நம்ம வந்து யூஸ் பண்ணுவோம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அவங்க விரும்புகிறாங்க. தேங்க்யூ.
Yes. What is the value gained, right? Well, to me, when I am in an event, one of the things that I would be most interested in to see what kind of a gate it opened for other possibilities. And what I felt through this, and maybe most of you see us so confident, we know what we are doing. At the beginning, we were like, let's try for 2 weeks and see if there is any hope to do something like this. And it kept coming and moving and ups and downs, and then it ended up looking so we know everything. But this opened this kind of possibility, is that we know that there have been plenty of effort before. Islands, one individually is doing something, or a group of a little bit cohesive. There have been some effort, but this was those who are not so cohesive coming together. It's almost like the possibility of islands merge in a symbiotic relation, something like this. And I keep wondering if this one day could lead to, for me, any real change will be a permanent social, cultural change. Like today I'm leaving and everybody's saying this was a great work, and I'm like, in my mind, will be a real success if one day this is normal. If we manage to go like this for a longer time. But I feel this first event maybe one day we would remember as something that opened this gate for that this is our culture. And why not 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people in a place, hopefully, who are working on a project together. Why not? Yeah. So this is for me the value, is that this possibility. Yeah.
ஸோ ஒமாருக்கு மனசுக்கு பிடிச்ச வேல்யூ என்னென்னா இந்த ப்ராசஸ் மூலமாக இந்த ப்ராசஸ்னால் ஒரு புது வழி வந்து திறந்த மாதிரி இருந்தது. அது எப்படின்னா இதுக்கு முன்னாடி நிறையா பேர் இந்த மாதிரி கொலாபரேட்டிவ் ப்ராசஸ் எல்லாம் ஒன்று சேர்ந்து பண்ணுறது எல்லாமே பண்ணியிருக்கோம். ஆனால் இது எப்பயும் ஒன்று சேராத நிறைய என்ன சொல்கிறது எல்லா பக்கத்துக்காரங்களையும் வந்து ஒன்று சேர்த்து ஒரு இடத்துல உட்கார வச்சு ஒரு அவுட்புட்டை கொண்டு வந்த ஒரு ப்ராசஸாக இருந்தது. ஸோ அது அவர் என்ன சொல்கிறாரு, இன்றைக்கி வந்து நம்ம இது ரொம்ப நல்ல ப்ராசஸ் அப்படின்னு எல்லாருமே ஃபீல் பண்ணுறோம். அவரையும் எல்லாரும் பாராட்டணும், எல்லாரையும் இதில் பங்கேற்ற எல்லாரையும் பாராட்டுறோம். ஆனால் அவர் என்ன சொல்கிறாரு, ஒரு நாள் ஃப்யூச்சரில் இது நார்மலாக ஆகணும், இது யாரும் பெருசாக இப்படி தான் நம்ம பண்ணவே செய்வோம் எல்லா விஷயத்தையும் அப்படின்னு ஆகிற நாள் வரணும் இது வழியாக அப்படிங்கிறது அவருடைய எதிர்பார்ப்பு. ஸோ அதுதான் அவர் பெரிய ஒரு ஓப்பனிங்காக இருக்கும், இந்த ப்ராசஸ் வந்து கொடுத்த ஒரு வழியாக இருக்கும் அப்படின்னு அவர் பார்க்குறார். தேங்க்யூ.
Okay, second question regarding current efforts and challenges. Since the end of this work, the submission of the report, could you elaborate on the effort to continue, develop, evolve this process, and what are the challenges?
Yeah. Maybe one of the reasons that we have been postponing this kind of event is that one, the documentary takes lots of time of work, but also somehow part of us felt like not coming and saying this happened, it's done. Something else is coming, or something else has started its initial steps. And there have been several efforts on different zones. The 3 days workshop that now we are working on a multidisciplinary platform. Mona will speak about this, and I will speak about another platform for the architects, and we try to make them work together. And David will speak about the citizen assembly effort. For me, for the architects, at the beginning, after the submission of the 1 month, maybe after the submission of the report in April, we tried to get again the architects. We said this is a very good chance. We have around 15 to 18 architects working together in a very harmoniously. Let's come together and see if we can establish a longer term effort. And the first time it was not very easy, because we felt there was a little bit, many people are saying there is lots of events happening in Auroville, it's very difficult, lots of firefighting, now is the time to elect new working groups. And then we said, understandable, should we cancel this idea or should we meet again later? Everybody said we meet again later. The good news is that when we started doing this again, we find the overwhelming majority of the architects who participate in the Dreamweaving are very open to a longer term collaboration. And we are trying to devise a new method in which we are exchanging the role of administration. Like the first one, we wanted, always say to, the first time we said the 3 of us are organizing, but then no, someone else should come, because it becomes more useful to all of us if there are other people, expanding the circle. And we said even will be every month a different organizer for the work that we do. And we continue bringing ideas and see if this could help Auroville in the future or not. It just even if this is not going to lead to anything, I believe still we have to do it because this is our duty. And it's a choice of a way of existence that we keep collaborating and we keep trying whether this would lead to anything or not. Yeah.
So can I just add? Yeah, just add to that. Because, so like what Omar was saying, what we have thought of that every month, another architect will choreograph the next meeting. So it's up to them, what they want to concentrate. Like we'll have a theme, but we can have a red thread, but they can also have each month a different, they can bring an expert or they can bring their own work or they can continue on the work that was happened last month. But it's up to them, the location, the time, the way they do it. And I think this is something we learned in the dream catching, that when you run with something, which after when we did the Dreamweaving, that we empower the people who are taking up the responsibility to do things the way they want and like choreograph it the way they want. So I think it will be the beginning of something more long-term, because this is going to be, that 2 months was a very high intensive program, but now we want to do a low intensity, long-term collaboration, which we feel will have more possibility to keep it sustainable for everybody who's working at many levels in Auroville.
Alan கேட்ட ரெண்டாவது கேள்வி என்னன்னா, இந்த ப்ராசஸ் அடுத்த கட்டத்துக்கு எப்படி நகர்த்துறதுக்கான வழிகள் ஏதாவது பண்ணின்னு இருக்கா, இல்லை எப்படி இது அடுத்த கட்டத்துக்கு போகுது அப்படின்னு கேட்டார். ஸோ ஒமார் சொன்னது என்னென்னா, முக்கியமாக இவ்வளோ இந்த ப்ராசஸ் நடந்து எவ்வளோ நாள் ஆச்சு, ஆனாலும் இவ்வளோ நாள் கழித்து இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு எல்லாரையும் கூப்பிட்டு இதை காட்டணும் அப்படின்னு நினச்சதுக்கு வெயிட் பண்ணதுக்கு காரணம் முக்கியமாக, ஓகே இது முடிஞ்சது அவ்வளோதான் நாங்கள் காட்டணும் அப்படிங்கிறது இல்லாமல் இதை அடுத்த கட்டத்துக்கு எப்படி நகர்த்துறோம் அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு சில வழிகளையும் பின்னாடி வேலை பார்த்து அதையும் உங்களுக்கு தெரிவிக்கணும் அப்படிங்கிறதுக்காக தான். ஸோ அப்படி பார்த்திங்கன்னா இந்த கடந்த சில மாதங்களாக இந்த ப்ராசஸில் பங்கேற்ற பல்வேறு துறைகளில் இருந்த நிபுணர்கள், அப்புறம் ஆர்கிடெக்ட்ஸ் எல்லாரையும் நிறைய தடவை மீட் பண்ணி எப்படி இதை நம்ம கண்டினியூ பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு சில டிஸ்கஷன்ஸ்லாம் நடந்தது. ஸோ அதில் பார்த்திங்கன்னா நிறைய டிஃப்ரெண்ட்டான ஃபீலிங்ஸ் இருந்தது. இப்போ பண்ணலாம் அப்புறம் பண்ணலாம் அந்த மாதிரியெல்லாம். பட் ஆனால் இன்றைக்கி நாங்கள் உங்களுக்கு சொல்ல போகிற ஒரு நல்ல விஷயம் என்னென்னா, எல்லா ஆர்கிடெக்ட்ஸும் எல்லோரும் ஒன்று சேர்ந்து நம்ம இதையும் அடுத்த கட்டத்துக்கு நகர்த்தணும், நம்ம இதே மாதிரி தொடர்ந்து செயல்பட்டுகிட்டே இருக்கணும் வருங்காலத்தில் அப்படிங்கிறதுக்கு எல்லோரும் ஒத்துக்கிட்டு இருக்காங்க. அதே மாதிரி பல்துறை நிபுணர்களும். ஸோ அந்த வழி உங்களுக்கு சொல்கிறதுல ஒமார் ரொம்ப ஹாப்பி. அண்ட் மோனா என்ன சொன்னாங்கன்னா, இந்த இதில் எப்படி இந்த ப்ராசஸ் அடுத்த கட்டத்துக்கு இருக்க போகுதுன்னா, இப்போ பார்த்திங்கன்னா இந்த ப்ராசஸில் ஒமார், டேவிட், மோனா இவங்க இதை மெயினாக இருந்து நடத்துனாங்க. அடுத்து இதை கண்டினியூ பண்ணும்போது பார்த்திங்கன்னா எல்லோரும் அதில் இருக்கிற போகிற அத்தனை ஆர்கிடெக்ட்ஸும் எல்லாருமே இதில் பங்கேற்பாங்க. அவங்க எல்லோரும் ஒரு தடவையும் ஆர்கனைசராக இருப்பாங்க. ஸோ இது யாரையும் சார்ந்ததாக இருக்காது, யாரும் ஒருத்தர் மட்டும் அதை நடத்துகிறதா இருக்காது, நம்ம எல்லாருமே சேர்ந்து நடத்த போகிற ஒரு ப்ராசஸாக இருக்க போது. இப்போது ட்ரீம் வீவிங் பார்த்திங்கன்னா ஒரு 2 மாதம் ஒரு குறுகிய காலகட்டத்தில் ரொம்ப சின்ன டைம் ஃப்ரேமில் நடந்தது. அடுத்து இதை கண்டினியூ பண்ண போகிறது பார்த்திங்கன்னா இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் ஒரு நீண்ட கால ஃபேஸில் இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் ஸ்லோவான இதில் நிறைய விஷயங்கள் எடுத்து அதுக்கான ஐடியாஸை எல்லாத்தையும் ஒன்று சேர்த்து பண்ணுறதுக்கான வழிகள்லாம் நடக்க போகுது. So, thank you.
Okay, so another effort that we have been doing, because as you might know, many of you kept on saying why is this not continuing, and so many people were asking us, and then we thought, okay, the multidisciplinary 3-day workshop was a big success, and we managed to get so many people on one platform. So we invited them again, and we said, would we all like to work on something continuing, from what we have left off, but not necessarily the crown, but working something on the planning level. And Omar came up with the idea to work on mobility, because mobility is something that affects, all of us, and which all of us have a lot of diverse viewpoints on that. So the idea was, we brought all those people together in their specific expertise. Like we also expanded the circle. It was not only those 3 days and the people who came, But we got people from different fields of expertise, like education, health, water, no planners and no architects. That was the only condition. Let's get all other people on board, young people, students, limited, like maybe 15, 20, we sent out the invitation. And let's look at what we can do with we take one strain of mobility. And maybe at the end of it, we'll come up with something like our brief on mobility. Maybe it will be simple, but then it can go to the next level. Maybe it can go to the architects group after that, and then they can take it up and see how they look at it. So that was the broad idea. And we started, the first time we met, it was about a process of 4 or 5 months. It's going on now. And we meet every 2 weeks, one afternoon for 2-3 hours. So that the first time we said everybody who comes, if they want to speak on their field, like if you're representing bioregion or you're representing education, you can speak from your field of expertise what mobility in Auroville means to you for just 3 minutes. So just like maybe 2-3 points. And then the rest are just listening. And then at the end of it, we had placards and we put up, and then we tried to find the common strains through that. And we found then we would sit together as a team. Alan was also there from representing TDC. We would sit together, and it was also afterwards facilitated by Eliza and Sandira. So, and in the beginning with, what was her name? The first session, Julia. So, yeah. So then we kind of filtered out 5 pillars of mobility, what were important. So one was bioregional mobility, one was safety and security. I don't remember all of them, but they were very, very interesting things that came out of that. But we felt now how to go forward, like these 5 pillars, putting up on the board, and then what is the next step? And then we came up with this idea through some discussions by a coincidence that let's take the 12 attributes of the mother symbol, and let's see if we put those 12 attributes, and if everybody picks up one attribute, and it's a very silent kind of space in the beginning, and very well facilitated. So they take up that, and then they see from their perspective, from their expertise, what does that quality or attribute bring in their work or in their expertise. For example, if you take, say, peace, is one of the 12 attributes. And so peace could mean silent city, for example. Or you take generosity, it could be free transport for all. Just giving some example. There are much more. We harvested something really rich from that in a 2-hour session. And then we went to the next level and we said, why not take the 4 aspects of the mother, which is the center of the symbol, and we took those, and we again looked at the qualities that Mahakali represents, what Mahalakshmi represents, Mahasaraswati represents, and mobility together, and your field of expertise. So it's a very experimental thing, and it's not something airy-fairy. We are really trying to ground it. We're really trying to see, so the Mahasaraswati aspects brings how to bring that into action. Yeah. So there are many layers to it. What are the paradigm shifts required in the Mahakali, and what does that mean in terms of energetic shifts, and what do we need to change in the Mahalakshmi for that? So it was quite nice to use this. I thought it was an amazing tool that is already there for us, and to really explore it in terms of planning, I felt this would be something, because one thing that happened which we realized, we got stuck. Sorry, I'm talking a lot. But what we realized is that multidisciplinary, we thought everybody will bring their expertise, and as Oma would always say, like in MIT, if you would get all these people together, they'll focus on their expertise, and that's it. But what we realized in Auroville, that our life here and the way we are, it makes us generalists. We are super concerned, and we do have our swabhav and a swadharma which grounds us and anchors us, but we do become generalists. We do become hopefully very common sense people and practical. And so we thought how to bring that, because the expertise didn't, we needed to expand it. We needed to take this generalist potential onto board. So that's where we are with that particular multidisciplinary aspect, and I think it is going to it will go well in the future. This 1 month thing also, there are many other things that are happening in Auroville. We are not the only ones. There are also people who are doing what I say dream catching 2.0, like there are people who are doing, meditating and trying to bring down calling aspirational, so there are many groups that have come together trying to find ways to bring us together and in a harmonious way.
Poor Induja has to try and translate that now.
I'll keep it short. Yeah. So, Mona சொன்னது என்னன்னா ஆர்கிடெக்ட்ஸ் எப்படி ஒர்க் பண்ண போகிறோன்னு கொஞ்சம் முன்னாடி உமார் சொன்னார். அதே மாதிரி இந்த பல்துறை நிபுணர்கள் அவங்க எப்படி ஒர்க் பண்ண போகிறாங்க எப்படி ஒர்க் பண்ணிட்டும் இருக்காங்க ஆல்ரெடி அப்படிங்கிறத பற்றி அவங்க சொன்னாங்க. ஸோ பார்த்திங்கன்னா ட்ரீம் வீவிங்கில் பார்ட்டிசிபேட் பண்ண அந்த நிபுணர்கள் யாருன்னா கல்வி, பொருளாதாரம், வாட்டர், அப்புறம் போக்குவரத்து, இது பற்றின எல்லா துறை நிபுணர்களும் அவங்க மட்டும் இல்லாமல் இன்னும் மீதி பேர் எத்தனையோ பேர் இருக்காங்க நம்ம கம்யூனிட்டியில். அவங்க எல்லாரையும் ஒன்று சேர்த்து ஒரு சில வேலைகள் நடந்துன்னு இருக்கு. அது என்னதுன்னா அவங்க எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணாங்க எப்படி அவங்க ஒன்று சேர்ந்து வேலை பார்க்குறாங்க, எதெல்லாம் பற்றி நம்ம அடுத்து முன்னாடி கொண்டு போனோம் அப்படின்னு பேசும்போது போக்குவரத்து அது ஒரு முக்கியமான விஷயமா வெளியே வந்தது அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறாங்க. ஏன்னா இன்றைக்கி நம்ம எல்லாரும் சந்திச்சுட்டு இருக்க ஒரு முக்கியமான பிரச்சனை போக்குவரத்தை நோக்கி இருக்குது. ஸோ அதை நம்ம முன்னாடி கொண்டு போகலாம், அதை பற்றின அதுக்கான ஐடியாஸ் அதெல்லாம் நம்ம அடுத்து பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அந்த போக்குவரத்தை பற்றி ஆரோவில் எப்படி இருக்கணுன்றது ஒரு சுருக்கம், அதாவது எல்லா ப்ராஜெக்டும் துவங்கிறதுக்கு ஒரு முக்கியமான விஷயம் அந்த சுருக்கம், த ப்ரீஃப். ஸோ அதை உருவாக்கியிருக்காங்க இப்போதைக்கு. இதே மாதிரி நிறைய விஷயம் அவங்க என்ன சொன்னாங்கன்னா முக்கியமாக இதை ரொம்ப மற்ற எல்லா இடத்துலையும் பண்ணுற மாதிரி இல்லாமல் மதரோட அந்த 12 குவாலிட்டிஸ், அப்புறம் மதர்ஸ் கொடுத்த அந்த 4 ஆஸ்பெக்ட்ஸ், இதை மையமாக வச்சு எப்படி நம்ம அந்த மொபிலிட்டியில் அத்தனை அத்தனை குவாலிட்டிஸையும் நம்ம எப்படி ஒரு மொபிலிட்டியில் கொண்டு வர முடியும் அந்த போக்குவரத்து பற்றி பிளான் பண்ணுறதுல அப்படிங்கிறத அவங்க பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. ஸோ இது பார்த்திங்கன்னா ஒரு தனித்துவமான விஷயம், ஆரோவில்ல மட்டும்தான் நடக்கும். ஸோ அதை அவங்களுக்கு ரொம்ப இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங்காக இருந்திருக்கு. எஸ், தேங்க்யூ.
Well done. Okay, I'm going to be very short. The Citizens Assembly Exploration team are actually in the process of writing a report which will go out to the community in much more detail than I'll be able to express now. But just to synthesize, over the last months, we had actually been preparing a process to look at the RAD process with the council, and we were pretty much ready to go with that. And obviously now with the new council, new members, there's been new discussions as to how they want to move on with that. So we're waiting as and when the council, and if the council want to go ahead with it, we're ready to do that. And in the meantime, we're also looking with the TDC at looking at development priorities for the community. But again, the TDC are having to do a lot of work to get themselves up to speed with what they want to be doing. So we're just kind of watching where we're being called to help at the moment. But that's a very brief synopsis. You'll get a much longer review soon.
ஸோ இந்த ப்ராசஸ் நடத்துறதுக்கு முக்கியமான ஒரு உதவியாக இருந்தது சிட்டிசன்ஸ் அசெம்பிளி டீம். ஸோ பார்த்திங்கன்னா அது எப்படி அடுத்த கட்டத்துக்கு நகருதுன்னா அதுக்கான ஒரு பெரிய ரிப்போர்ட் எழுதின்னு இருக்காங்க. அதே மாதிரி கவுன்சில், நம்மளோட ஆரோவில் கவுன்சில் மூலமாக ஒரு ஆர்ஏடி ப்ராசஸும் நடத்துறதுக்கு சில தயாரிப்புகள் நடந்துன்னு இருக்கு. அதுவும் மட்டும் இல்லாமல் டிடிசி, நம்மளோட டிடிசி கூட அடுத்து நம்ம ஆரோவில்கான வளர்ச்சிக்கான ப்ரையாரிட்டிஸ், முக்கியத்துவங்கள் என்ன அப்படிங்கிறதையும் அவங்க டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணிகிட்ருக்காங்க. அடுத்து எதை நம்ம நோக்கி செயல்படணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு. ஸோ எல்லாருமே அவங்களுடைய வேலைகளை பின்னாடி செஞ்சுட்டு இருக்காங்க. இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் நாளில் மேபி எல்லாம் கம்யூனிட்டிக்கு ப்ரெசென்ட் பண்ணுவாங்க.
Okay, last question, which I'll ask the panel to answer briefly, because I want to give a chance for people here to ask questions. And you've already begun answering some of this. The way forward. taking into account what has been learned through this collective experience in regards to Auroville urban design and planning, could you share one insight, on how you see the way forward? Do you want to?
I can just, yeah. அவர் கேட்ட கேள்வி என்னன்னா, இந்த ப்ராசஸ் மூலமாக அவங்களுக்கு அதாவது வே ஃபார்வர்ட் அடுத்த கட்டத்துக்கு நகரத்துக்காக அவங்க மனசுலேருந்து ஒரு பதிவை ஷேர் பண்ண சொல்கிறாங்க. கேட்போம்.
Okay, can you please put the PDF that I have given? Suresh. Yeah. Yeah. You didn't. So first, one very quick correction. The one who brought mobility to multidisciplinary was not me. Yeah. Yeah. And anyway, we have decided to have this idea of way forward as our closing statement before we start the Q&A. And this is very abstract. It was us sharing our ideas, and sometimes we doodle, we create these diagrams because it always helps us to know where we are, what is our position before action. And some of these diagrams we have transformed into simple diagrammatic. And then the idea came from David and Mona, let's get this and show people the process of thinking and how we try to arrive to these. And this is our sharing in regards to the way forward. First of all, what we are doing now is the continuation of the Dreamweaving, just on longer period. And always in through community participation and also in contact with the multidisciplinary. Next, of course, this can be part. Can you come back? This can be part of a more holistic planning process, but this is not. This is still in deliberation. It is not yet there. Next. One of the abstract ideas that we are trying to bring is that always in planning, it was almost trying to map perception. Always in planning, you will find different maps of perception, or people in general. It's like the starting point. And this is a simplified, as we always say, the map is not the territory. But sometimes you need to abstract and simplify to get more clarity. And you will find sometimes there is a map of perception that, for example, comes from metaphysical belief, pure geometry, vision, intuition, occult, sacred geometry, symbolism, feeling, high art, hierarchy, elitism. Another one would come nature, balance, harmony, sustainable, freedom, physical, organic, incremental, collaborative, spontaneous, simple, hands-on, down to earth. Another one will be human, service for human, logic, priorities, development, practicality, needs, efficiency, rational, sustainability, incremental. But these are not reality. These are normative models to simplify and to help us understand how we differ as human beings. But next.
Omar, 1 second.
Yeah.
Maybe just go back. It would be nice if just 1 minute we take, you look at this. Because this is very important. We feel that this is how our community represents itself to itself. Maybe you take 1 minute to see where you fall in this, you know.
Exactly. So
interesting, right? Yeah. So
come next. This is only to simplify and try to understand. Next, yeah. In reality, the overlap, there are people who have more clarity or have more clear starting point, let's say, but there are people who overlap. But then there is this very small space that really integrates. But then even next more, and I think this is illusion. You think it's a very small space when society is in acute situation. This is what we call polarization. But in reality, next, it's much more than we think. It's much more than we think. The overlapping and I think this is more descriptive of reality than the normative model, but it's just to help. And Interestingly, in planning, the theory of planning of Lynch, for example, is basing the three normative models of a city on these conceptions. The cosmic city that it tried to connect Earth to the sky, to heaven, the mechanical city that it's trying to be so efficient, and the city as an organism that try to be in full natural balance. So it has an origin in planning history, and maybe this clarify where we come from and where we want to try to. The kind of projects we'd be interested in is that it's sympathy, integration, and joy, and that means at least sympathy, the minimum. Maybe this could lead to more integration, and then if there is integration, we can go to joy. At least sympathy. If somebody's coming very strong with an idea that it is metaphysical only, or only logical, or only nature, the space in the middle, try to integrate the three, and it starts with sympathy. And with sympathy, we take the next step into integration. If we integrate, it's a really joyful process. Yeah. Next. But there are always, in any situation, forces out and forces in. And this is this is for us the challenge, is that there are always forces out, and if there are forces out that are stronger, we have to challenge the leadership that is pushing out. And this is the one thing that I feel as a community, to maintain our cohesion, should make. Sometimes I see people who are in this kind of disagreement so angry to the degree that I feel this level of anger cannot be produced except through collaborative process also. It's a teamwork. But then what we need, especially at this moment, next, to neutralize these forces out and to go in. By the way, all of this talk is about planning, because it's a very different issue when we move to the other issues that are challenging us today, like, for example, the issue of self-organization, self-governance, different issues that Auroville is facing. When we speak of planning, we find this clear space of sympathy, integration, that could lead to joy, and we feel these forces that are pushing out has to be neutralized. This is existential to this community, and the forces in should be more. And this is, the forces out could be very pure. People who are so dedicated, so pure, and in some cases people who want something also. Like there is an aim to achieve for self. But I think we should be very careful and to try to push into that kind of a space. And that declares our position as the Dreamweaving, and maybe the force that have been moving us through this all this time, and can also show what kind of projects we'd be interested in the future. Only if it is in that center. Now that center to us is not the gray neutral. This is not the gray comfortable neutral. On the contrary, this is the let's provoke everybody, or let's reject all of those who are pushing out together. Let's challenge. It's not let's be in the gray zone.
Yeah, so
and it needs lots of force to push in. Yeah.
The small circles represent the exclusivity, and we feel that in Auroville, inclusivity is the way to go forward, and not exclusivity. And so long as we are there will always be very discomforting, opposing viewpoints, and we are being torn apart, and we are just pulling ourselves more and more down. And the moment we change this, we can make it inclusive, we can change the game altogether.
One last thing, which both of them have already touched on, but the fact is, we're very used in the world, both here in Auroville and in the outside world, that the extreme positions tend to be the most vocal and have the strongest push to achieve. And the space in the center where the sympathy, integration, and joy lies as potential, the people who tend to gravitate to a center often don't have the strength and the conviction because you can feel yourself, oh, well, of course we need to look at the nature and the balance. Oh, but we need to be logical. And of course we have to integrate the metaphysical. So there's a natural tendency to vacillate almost. And I think one of the goals of Auroville is to strengthen this center, but from that place of openness and inclusivity, and change actually a lot of these patterns that we're seeing in the wider world.
Also, that needs time. Like always, this needs time. You know, to come to the center with joy and sympathy needs time. This is so much easier. Exclusivity is always easy. I'm right, and therefore we go ahead. But it's fast, but it's not lasting.
I'll just say one last sentence. We recognize this is much easier said than done. We have to try. Yeah.
ஸோ ரொம்ப சுருக்கமாக அவங்க காமிச்சிருக்க அந்த படத்தில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா 3 விஷயம் இருக்குது. இது எதுனா நம்மளுடைய உண்மை நிலையை வந்து காட்டுற ஒரு விஷயந்தான், வேறு எதுவும் புதுசாக இல்லை. என்னென்னா மெட்டாஃபிசிக்கல் ஆர் பிலீஃப். நமக்கு எப்போவுமே இருக்க ஒரு நம்பிக்கை, ஒரு சில விஷயங்கள் மேலே நமக்கு இருக்க நம்பிக்கை. அப்புறம் ஹியூமன் ஆர் லாஜிக், நம்மளுடைய அறிவு சார்ந்த ஒரு சில விஷயங்கள், நமக்கு அந்த மாதிரி இருக்கிற நம்மளுடைய ஒப்பீனியன்ஸ், இதெல்லாம் பார்த்திங்கன்னா இருக்குது. அதே மாதிரி இயற்கை, நம்ம தான் மனுஷங்களாக இருக்கோம். ஸோ நமக்கு இயற்கையாகவே ஒரு சில விஷயங்கள் நமக்குள்ளே இருக்குது. ஸோ இந்த 3 விஷயமும் தான் வந்து நம்மளோட அன்றாட வாழ்க்கையில் நம்மளோட ஒரு சமூகத்தில் விளையாடிட்டுருக்கு. ஸோ நம்ம இதில் பார்த்திங்கன்னா ஒரு சில பேர் ஒரு விஷயத்தில் மட்டும் ரொம்ப ரொம்ப நம்பிக்கை உள்ளவங்களாக இருப்பாங்க. ஓ, எனக்கு பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் இதுதான் என்னுடைய உண்மை, இதுதான் என்னோடய உண்மை அப்படிங்கிறத ரொம்ப நம்பிக்கையோடு இருக்கவங்க இருக்காங்க. ஸோ இது எல்லாம் ஒன்று சேர்த்தது தான் நம்ம. ஆனால் இது பார்த்திங்கன்னா இது தனித்தனியாக இருக்கிற வரைக்கும் இதுக்கு எந்த பயனுமே இல்லை. முக்கியமான விஷயம் பார்த்திங்கன்னா அது எல்லாம் ஒன்று சேரும் போது ஒரு நடுவில் ஒரு மையமாக ஒன்று உருவாகுது பார்த்திங்களா. அதில் என்ன இருக்குது அப்படின்னா, என்ன இருக்கணும், என்ன அதனால் வரும் அப்படின்னு பார்த்திங்கன்னா ஒரு இரக்கம் இருக்கணும். ஓ, நம்மளை மாதிரியே இல்லை நம்ம சுற்றி இருக்கவங்களும், ஓ மற்றவங்க வேறு மாதிரியும் இருக்காங்க, அதை ஏற்றுக்கணும். அதே மாதிரி இன்டிகிரேஷன், ஒருங்கிணை. ஸோ இத்தனை பேர் டிஃப்ரெண்ட்டாக பேசுகிறாங்க, இவ்வளோ பேர் டிஃப்ரெண்ட்டாக நினைக்கிறாங்க, அது எல்லாத்தையும் ஒருங்கிணைக்கிறதுக்கு நினைக்கணும். இதெல்லாம் பண்ணும்போது கண்டிப்பாக அந்த இடத்துல ஒரு ஆனந்தம் இருக்கும். ஸோ என்ன சொல்கிறாங்க, நம்ம ஆரோவில்ல வந்து இந்த மாதிரி தனித்தனியாக நம்ம எப்படி வேணால் இருந்துட்டு அப்படியே நம்ம வாழ்ந்துட்டே போகலாம். ஆனால் இந்த இடத்துக்கு நம்ம வந்திருக்கோன்னா அதுக்கு ஒரு காரணம், முக்கியமாக அந்த மையம், அந்த நடுப்பகுதியை வந்து நம்ம அடையணும் அப்படிங்கிறது தான். ஸோ இப்போ பார்த்திங்கன்னா இந்த வெளியில் இருக்க இந்த மாதிரி தனித்தனியாக இந்த பிலீஃப்ஸ் இருக்கவங்க எல்லாருமே வந்து ரொம்ப அதிகமான நம்பிக்கை இருக்கிறதுனால இதுதான் உண்மை, இதுதான் உண்மை அப்படிங்கிறது ரொம்ப சத்தமாகவும் பேசுகிறாங்க. ஆனால் அந்த எல்லாத்தையும் எடுத்துக்கணும் அப்படின்னு நினச்ச அந்த மையப்பகுதியில் இருக்கவங்க அந்தளவுக்கு சத்தமாக இல்லை, அதானால் சத்தமாக இல்லைனாலும் சக்தி வாய்ந்ததாக இருக்குது. ஸோ அதை நோக்கி தான் நம்ம எல்லாமே வந்து போகணும் அப்படிங்கிறது தான் சுருக்கமாக அவங்க சொன்னதுலேருந்து நான் உங்களுக்கு எல்லாருக்கும் கொடுக்குறேன். தேங்க்யூ.
Okay. You've been extremely patient. We wanted this to be a question and answer session. There may be many questions or important questions that we have not put already to them. We said 7 o'clock, it's now 10 past, but since it's being streamed and people are watching this and maybe watching it in segments in their homes and whatever, I think it's important that people are given a chance still to ask questions from the panel. So we're not locking the doors yet, but if somebody has a question that you feel really has not been addressed, and they can be difficult questions, please come to one of the microphones. There's one here and there's one there, and ask the question. Sure.
The question of lands that do not belong to Auroville within this central circle. What is happening? How is that resolved? Do you understand?
I don't know if the panel are the correct people to answer that. what is happening with the land in the central part of Auroville that does not belong to Auroville?
It just seems difficult for this if there's these major
Okay,
issues.
I can give a very quick answer historically that one of the first Dreamweavings in 2008, which was focused on the crown between the Solar Kitchen and Joy Guesthouse, was rejected because we actually designed, we were working to work around the pieces of land so that we could actually be developing the crown without necessarily owning the land. But as the land would be bought, we could integrate it. Because it's quite possible if you set your design parameters in such a way with planning, it's very easy to say, well, okay, this piece of land is not belonging to us, so we design around it, and yet even within the design, you can say, well, if in the future this is bought, then this will happen. But it was rejected because actually the desire to have this circle on the crown was very strong, so that proposal was rejected. And now we're in a similar situation, because I know that they're still trying to buy the land. I don't know how much has been bought, but of course, ideally, all the land would be bought for the whole of the city centre area, and then that question would be solved. But that's part of the discussion.
அவர் கொடுத்த கேள்வி என்னன்னா, இந்த க்ரௌன் பற்றி பேசுகிறோம், அதில் ஆக்சுவலி இன்னுமே நிறைய நிலங்கள் வந்து நம்ம ஆரோவில் கையகப்படுத்தலை. அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு சூழ்நிலையில் நம்ம அதை எப்படி பார்க்குறீங்க அப்படின்னு கேட்டாங்க. அதுக்கு டேவிட் என்ன சொன்னார், யூஸ்வலாக இந்த மாதிரி சூழ்நிலைகளில் நம்ம டிசைன் பண்ணும்போது அதை சுற்றி அந்த இடம் நம்மளது இல்லைன்னா அதை சுற்றி நம்ம ஏதாவது ஒரு பரிந்துரை கொடுப்போம். ஆனால் அதை விளக்காமல் ஒருவேளை அதை நம்ம நாளைக்கு வாங்கிட்டோன்னா அந்த இடத்துல எப்படி இருக்கும் அப்படிங்கிறதுக்கான ஐடியாஸும் நம்ம கொடுப்போம். ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி வந்து நிறைய விஷயம் நடந்தும் இருக்குது. பட் ஆனால் ஒரு சில கட்டத்தில் அதை வந்து எடுத்துக்கப்படலை, ஏன்னா அது நம்மளதே இல்லை. அப்படி இருக்கும்போது அந்த டிசைன் எப்படி ஒத்து வரும் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி. பட் இது வந்து ஒரு பாசிபிலிட்டி இருக்குது அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறாங்க.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hello, I have many questions, but I will go with one. Vastu Shilpa Foundation, are they still part of the Dreamweaving? Are still on board? It's been totally dropped. I mean, maybe everybody knows it, and I'm the only one who doesn't know.
ஸோ அவங்க கேட்குறது முக்கியமாக இந்த க்ரௌன் ப்ராசஸ் ட்ரீம்வீவிங் நடந்ததுக்கு வந்து காரணம் வாஸ்து ஷில்பா பிவி தோஷி அவர்களோட ஆஃபீஸ்க்கு நம்ம இந்த ஐடியாஸோட திரட்டை கொடுக்கறது தான். இப்போ அவங்க இந்த ப்ராசஸில் இருக்காங்களா இல்லையா, இந்த விஷயம் எனக்கு மட்டும் தான் தெரியலையா இல்லை எல்லாருக்குமே தெரியலையா, அதுக்கான பதில் இருக்கா அப்படின்னு கேட்குறாங்க.
What I heard directly from Rajiv is that they are not involved in Auroville at the moment. And I asked him, can we quote you on this? He said yes. Other than this, not much. They are not involved at the moment. I asked him, would you like to involve at some point if the situation is more clear? He said, we have worked for 5 months, or we started producing ideas, and now we have a very good sense of Auroville. If the situation allows, initially we could be open. Yeah.
ராஜீவ் அப்படிங்கிறவர் அந்த வாஸ்து ஷில்பா ஃபவுண்டேஷனில் ஒரு முக்கியமான ஆர்கிடெக்ட், அவர் பிளானர். அவர் வந்து சொன்னது என்னென்னா, இவர் கேட்டப்போ ஆரோவில் சம்மந்தமாக எந்த வேலைகள்லையும் அவங்க இப்போ ஈடுபடலை, அதுதான் அந்த பதில். அதுக்கப்புறம் ஃப்யூச்சரில் வருங்காலத்தில் இது மாதிரி ஆரோவில் சிச்சுவேஷன் இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் நல்லா ஆனதப்போ, தெளிவான விஷயங்கள் இருக்கிறப்போ நீங்கள் வந்து பங்கு பெறுவீங்களா அப்படின்னு. அவங்க கண்டிப்பாக ஆல்ரெடி இதெல்லாம் நடந்துட்டு இருக்கும் போது அவங்க வந்து இங்கே நிறைய விஷயம் தெரிஞ்சுக்கிட்ட போது ஆரோவில் பற்றி அவங்களுக்கு நல்ல ஒரு ஒப்பீனியன் கிடச்சிருக்கு. ஸோ அவங்க நிறைய விஷயம் ஆல்ரெடி ஒர்க் பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சிட்டாங்க ஒரு 5 மாதமாக. ஸோ கண்டிப்பாக வருங்காலத்தில் நிறைய தெளிவு நம்மக்கிட்ட இருக்கும் போது அவங்க கண்டிப்பாக வேலை செய்வாங்க அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறாங்க.
We had been hearing various reasons potentially why Vastu Shilpa weren't involved anymore. But then in August, Dr. Ravi invited us to the foundation, and she informed us that somehow, because of the NGT, Delhi were not feeling comfortable with spending so much money because they'd asked for a very high quote, apparently. So there was something, I don't know if I misunderstood that, but that's kind of what we were informed in August. So that might add a little bit more detail.
ஏன் வாஸ்து ஷில்பா இப்போ இல்லை ஈடுபடலை அப்படிங்கிறதுக்கு இன்னொரு பதில், ஆகஸ்டில் ஒருத்தர் ஃபவுண்டேஷன் ஆஃபீஸ்க்கு போனப்போ அந்த ஃபவுண்டேஷன் நம்மளோட செயலாளர் டாக்டர் ஜெயந்தி ரவி அவர்கள் வந்து அவங்க இந்த வேலை செய்கிறதுக்கான அவங்களோட ஃபீஸ் அது வந்து கொஞ்சம் அதிகமாக இருந்தது அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு காரணம் சொன்னாங்க. அதுவும் ஒரு காரணம் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி டேவிட் சொல்கிறாரு. அவர் புரிஞ்சுக்கிட்டது சரின்னா அதுவும் ஒரு காரணம் அவங்க சொன்னது.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Like many of us, I'm just hugely inspired by what we have seen, and somehow this film also is so brilliant. I think it really strengthens our faith and enthusiasm again for what we're going through. And seeing the Dreamweaving process, I almost feel like there's no limit to its potential. So I could so easily imagine it apply to any and every aspect that of our organization, collective organization, that we have to reinvent in many ways, like, being from education to financial planning, so many aspects of it. So I'm just curious if there are seeds or sprouts already showing for that process.
ஸோ அவங்க இந்த ட்ரீம் வீவிங் வந்து இப்போது நடந்த இந்த நிகழ்வு மூலமாக கொஞ்சம் அந்த கஷ்டமான சூழ்நிலையிலேருந்து அவங்களுக்கு இன்னும் மறுபடியும் ஒரு புத்துணர்ச்சி கொடுத்துருக்குன்னு சொல்கிறாங்க. ஸோ இது பார்த்திங்கன்னா அவங்களோட ஃபீலிங் படி இந்த ப்ராசஸை எல்லா விஷயத்துக்கும் நம்ம புதுமை படைக்க வேண்டிய எல்லா விஷயத்துக்கும் இதை நம்ம வந்து உபயோகப்படுத்தலாம். அப்படி இருக்கும்போது அதுக்கான விதைகள் போடப்பட்டிருக்கா அப்படிங்கிறத அவங்க கேட்குறாங்க.
I have a couple of comments on the last two questions, if possible, quickly. One, the question about the cities at the center. And by the way, from a planning point of view, the land that concerns me more are the land on the periphery. The pockets of land at the city center, you will get at some point because they are so isolated. But when you create an attraction like an international city of this capacities and talent, and you have the tanto and the bread and chocolate bringing people from Chennai, and then you see the pressure developing, and these routes of development will keep coming from everywhere. There is another street that goes to the airport, and we will keep mounting pressure around. And you expect lots of tourism, lots of towers of globe view and forest view, and all of that is coming. And the real concern is to have a strategy first to secure this, because if you keep attracting without a strategy to have some kind of a good system strategy around, the project could easily transform into something else or becomes like a garden in the middle of a touristic zone. How to deal with this? This is really a big planning issue, and this is why we always say planning, you have to think on the big scale. You have no choice. You cannot say, if you say only the city center, today are going to develop the city center, it's done, most probably you might end up with some work in the city center and all the city itself eroded because the pressure is coming. So planning, it's a very different method of thinking than I imagine. We architects love to idealize the word. I imagine this kind of a space. But there is also planning process in which they have to synthesize, in which you also work on the periphery and the regional. The second issue of the Vastu Shilpa, I'm very hesitant because I heard different things, and we are not the spokesperson of the Vastu Shilpa, and at the same time, I don't like to say anything publicly until I have a proof. I can only say I see it as a lost chance, because Auroville, with all the capacities that has, still need those who have the experience of going through the whole process of city making and university campus making from beginning to end and see how it develops. This is very different kind of experience. And even if they are bringing something, it's not necessarily the final, it's not necessarily, they are involved in a community process, and I have went to their studio, I have seen it's really well-experienced team, and I see it as a lost chance, for now.
முன்னாடி கேட்ட 2 கொஷனுக்கு பதிலாக அவர் இன்னொன்று சொல்கிறாரு. முதல் விஷயம் என்னென்னா, நம்ம எல்லாரும் சிட்டி சென்டரில் நிலம் வாங்கணும், அதை டெவலப் பண்ணணும், அதை பற்றி ரொம்ப ஃபோக்கஸ் பண்ணிகிட்டே இருக்கோம். ஆனால் இதே நேரத்தில் இந்த இடத்துல இருக்கிற நம்ம இந்த ஆரோவில்னால எவ்வளோ விஷயங்கள் நம்மளை சுற்றி நம்மளோட பார்டர்லையும் வளர்ந்துட்டுருக்கு அப்படிங்கிறதெல்லாம் பார்க்கும்போது அது உண்மையாகவே வந்து அங்கேயும் நம்ம வந்து முக்கியத்துவம் செலுத்தணும். ஏன்னா தினந்தோறும் பார்க்குறோம், குயிலப்பாளையம் ரோடு எல்லாத்துலேயுமே பார்த்திங்கன்னா நிறைய விஷயங்கள் வந்துகிட்டே இருக்குது. டூரிசம் அந்த மாதிரி விஷயம்லாம் நிறைய வந்துன்னு இருக்குது. ஸோ இதெல்லாம் ஒரு பெரிய பாதிப்பாக இருக்கும். அதுக்கான பாதுகாப்பு முறைகளையும் நம்ம வந்து அதே நேரத்தில் செய்யணும். வெறும் சிட்டி சென்டரில் டெவலப் பண்ணுறது அதுலேயே முக்கியத்துவம் காட்டுறது பத்தாது அப்படிங்கிறத அவர் ஒரு நகர திட்ட பார்வையிலேருந்து சொல்கிறாரு. இன்னொரு 2வது விஷயம் என்ன சொல்கிறாருன்னா, நிறைய விஷயங்கள் எல்லாரும் வாஸ்து ஷில்பா ஏன் இல்லை அப்படிங்கிறத பற்றி பேசின்னு இருக்காங்க. அப்படி இருக்கிறதுல அவர் வந்து முக்கியமாக ஒன்று தெரிவிக்க நினைக்கிறாரு. என்னென்னா, இது ஒரு தவற விட்ட ஒரு சான்ஸ் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி அவர் ஃபீல் பண்ணுறாரு. நம்ம கையில் இருந்த ஒரு அழகான வாய்ப்பை தவற விட்டுட்டோம் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி தான் அவர் ஃபீல் பண்ணுறாரு. ஏன்னா நம்மக்கிட்ட எவ்வளோ திறமைகள் இருந்தாலும், எவ்வளோ டிஃப்ரெண்ட்டான ஐடியாஸ் இருந்தாலும், எவ்வளோ பேர் இருந்தாலும், ஸ்டில் நமக்கு வந்து வெளியில் இருந்து அவங்க எவ்வளோ எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ்டான ஆளுங்க, அவரே வந்து அங்கே போய் பார்த்துருக்காரு அவங்க ஆஃபீஸில். ஸோ ரொம்ப எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ்டான ஒரு டீம். அந்த மாதிரி அவங்களுடைய ஒருங்கிணைப்பு நமக்கு இருந்திருக்கணும். இது ஒரு தவற விட்ட வாய்ப்பாக தான் அவர் பார்க்குறாரு இப்போதைக்கு.
Okay, just to repeat that last question. The questioner was saying it's a very inspiring process, and maybe this can be actually developed and applied to other areas of Auroville, economy, governance, or whatever. Are there any shoots, initiatives in those other areas following the same kind of process that we can point to?
Yeah, Jasmine, the thing is that's one of the reasons also why we are here. Like, we are doing in one sphere where we know a little bit more, but we need more people. Like Citizen Assembly is another forum that's trying to do something. But we need more people, and slowly we need to grow muscles kind of to get this on a larger scale. It requires some expertise, some support, a lot of facilitation, a lot of time. So people have to give that time, and it takes time to build up. And right now we are fighting on too many ends, like too many fires to be burnt. So are burning. So we need to just get that going, and then eventually, yes, definitely, we feel that this can be taken on all levels. And I'm sure we'll find new ways to do things. This is not the end. This is just the beginning.
ஜாஸ்மின் கேட்ட அந்த கேள்விக்கு அவங்களோட பதில் கண்டிப்பாக அதுக்காக தான் வந்து முக்கியமாக இந்த ப்ராசஸ் என்ன நடந்தாலும் இது வந்து அடுத்த கட்டத்துக்கு போகிறதுக்கான நிறைய பொட்டென்ஷியல் இருக்குது அப்படிங்கிறதுக்காக தான் இந்த மீட்டிங்கும் நடக்குது. அதே மாதிரி நிறைய பேர் முன் வரணும், நிறைய திறமைகள் உள்ள நிறைய பேர் முன் வந்து இந்த விஷயத்தை எடுத்து நடத்தணும் அப்படிங்கிறத நிறைய டாப்பிக்கில் நம்ம இதை பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறாங்க. அதே மாதிரி இது வந்து ஒரு முடிவு கிடையாது. இது ட்ரீம் வீவிங் அந்த க்ரௌன் அதோடைய ஒரு முடிவாக இருக்கலாமே தவிர இந்த மாதிரி ப்ராசஸ் இந்த கம்யூனிட்டி இந்த நம்ம சமூகத்தில் நடக்கிறதுக்கான ஒரு ஆரம்பம் தான் இது. ஸோ நிறைய பேர் முன் வந்து நிறைய விஷயங்கள் உள்ளே கொண்டு வரும்போது இதை விட இன்னும் புதுமையான விஷயங்களும் கூட நமக்கு நம்ம செய்யறதுக்கான வழிகள் கிடைக்கலாம். ஸோ அதாங்க.
No, Jasmine, I think you know a little bit. I think the really good news is that at the moment in Auroville, under these pressures, there are plethora of initiatives. It's actually remarkable, and some of these initiatives' main function is to try to do this kind of in force, and other are trying to just get the members of Aurovillians to meet every single week to discuss things. And I keep hearing in these meetings the words of dream catching, dream weaving, generically saying we want to do dream catching, dream weaving. And I try to explain that these are very different terms with the different meaning and different function. And then the door opened, why don't you help? And then I said, yeah, David and Mona knows better even than me. And we said there will be some kind of trial to coach. So maybe the next step for David and Mona and me a little bit is to also try to meet the community in these events and give them idea what are these processes. It's the know-how. We didn't know how to do it before we start, but now we have a little bit of sense. And that maybe could help. And at the end, a revival, reform of Auroville Resident Assembly comes when there are plenty of initiatives that are productive. And let's see if that is a possibility or not. Yeah, I think all agree that Resident Assembly need to be pushed up. This is an agreement between all the people in this agreement in Auroville. So this is, I think, a trial worth trying.
ஜாஸ்மின்க்கு பதிலாக இன்னொன்று என்ன சொல்கிறாருன்னா இந்த ஒரு சில மாதங்களாக வந்து நிறைய விஷயங்கள் நிறைய பேர் நிறைய முயற்சிகள் எடுத்துகிட்டு இருக்காங்க. அப்படி இருக்கும்போது ஒரு சில பேர் பார்த்திங்கன்னா வாரத்தில் ஒரு தடவை வந்து எல்லா ஆரோவில்லியன்ஸும் மீட் பண்ணலாம் அப்படிங்கிற விஷயம்லாம் நிறைய நடந்துட்டுருக்கு. அப்படி இருக்கும்போது அந்த எல்லா மீட்டிங்ஸ்லேயும் வந்து இந்த ட்ரீம் வீவிங், ட்ரீம் கேச்சிங்ன்ற விஷயம் எல்லாருமே வந்து பேசுகிறாங்க. இது நம்மளும் ட்ரை பண்ணலாம், இது ஒரு அழகான ப்ராசஸாக இருக்குது அப்படின்னு சொல்லி. ஸோ அப்படி ஒமார்கிட்ட கேட்குற போது ஒமார் சொன்னது என்னென்னா ட்ரீம் வீவிங், ட்ரீம் கேச்சிங் ரெண்டும் கொஞ்சம் வித்தியாசமானது, அதை வந்து டிஃப்ரெண்ட்டாக தான் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஒரு ஐடியா என்னென்னா இந்த ட்ரீம் வீவிங்கையும் ட்ரீம் கேச்சிங்கையும் எப்படி பண்ணலாம் அப்படிங்கிற விஷயத்த மீதி பேருக்கும் சொல்லி கொடுக்கலாம், நிறைய ட்ரைனிங்ஸ் பண்ணலாம், எல்லாருக்கும் அதை வந்து அந்த நாலேஜை கொடுத்தோம்னா நிறைய சின்ன சின்ன ஸ்கேல்லையும் டிஃப்ரெண்ட்டான இடத்துலையும் அதை நடத்தலாம் அப்படின்ட்டு அவர் சொல்கிறார்.
I think we'll make this the last question. Can I just say one very quick thing before the question, which is on this, which is, and maybe we've been talking about changing the narrative that was on the film. One of the radical narratives that's being changed by this whole process is the narrative that only people with specialized knowledge have the right to make decisions or have the right to be involved in making decisions for the community. The experience of Citizens Assembly in particular, but also Dreamweaving to a certain extent, is that almost everybody has the capacity to make an intelligent and important input if the space is provided for them to do that. So in that sense, even though we say, what are the shoots? The assumption should not be, well, only people who've been involved in governance should go to governance, only the people in the economy should go to economy. It's actually a very radical re-narrating of actually how this community works, and I think it's actually much more in alignment with what Mother wanted to happen. So it's just a small thing. Okay. Last question.
You talked about a low intensity. You're thinking of the follow-up of this as a kind of a low intensity process, and I kind of understand that because one, it is a little bit in the nature of this movement that you showed, very beautiful. I really like that whole diagram. And also because of the way that this whole process was sort of ignored or not taken into account, and this also I understand. But it's so, it finally gives hope of bringing things together. And I was just wondering if there is a deadline. It's like it can go on forever. We can keep talking and then so is there a way to, without forcing, to still jump start, not to be too low intense, and that we actually get somewhere? Because I remember when I came to Auroville in 95 and there were these two, there was a development group and a planning group, and they never talked. Right? And now there's been this huge, long process. In some ways, I find it's still the same thing. In 98, there was an attempt to try to bring things together, and then that went off. And then, there have been so many attempts, and then 2019, January sessions was another attempt. That was, then now Dreamweaving, of course, So and then it's wonderful, it's come forward so well compared to 2007. But how long will it go on? That's my really honest, question to you all. We need to go forward. And I do understand, certain elements which, want that, because I want that too. And all of us want it, right? For Auroville to go forward and this thing, and we have to, actualize it, man, So we need not only to give it no deadline. I'm not saying to give it a deadline, but you have to think, low intensity just doesn't do it for me. And there is such a pressure. There is so much pressure, and this external pressures, as Omar said very rightly. And then there are these other pressures where there's, imposing something which doesn't fit with that fiber of Auroville. So how do we, it's an open question, how do we do it? Can we do it in a way that actually brings kind of something that which will finally be what we can all agree and go forward with, which even the government will then be like, yes, now this is it. You see, this is what integrates. We go for the integration for the human unity, which is Auroville, right? But if you just leave it for a low-intensity process that kind of goes on and on and on, that's not going to cut it with the government. So that's my question: is what do you have to say for that?
Hey. ஸோ அவங்க கேட்ட கேள்வி வந்து ரொம்ப அழகான ப்ராசஸ், இதுலேருந்து ஒரு அவுட்கம் வந்தது, இதெல்லாம் ஓகே. இது அடுத்தது நீங்கள் இதை வந்து ஒரு இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் மெதுவான முறையில் தான் நீங்கள் இதை மேலே கொண்டு போகிறீங்க அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறீங்க. அது வந்து இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் வேகமாக்கி எல்லாரும் ஒத்துக்கிற மாதிரி ஏதோ ஒரு இதை விட பெருசாக ஒரு விஷயத்த வந்து நம்மளால் உருவாக்க முடியுமா? ஏன்னா இந்த நேரத்தில் நிறைய நம்மளை சுற்றி வெளிப்புறத்துலேருந்து நிறைய ப்ரெஷர் வந்துகிட்டே இருக்குது. ஸோ அதையெல்லாம் வந்து தாக்கு பிடிக்கிற மாதிரி ஏதாவது ஒரு பெரிய விஷயம் நம்மளால் பண்ணி எல்லாரும் ஒத்துக்கிற மாதிரி ஒரு விஷயத்த பண்ணி அதை வந்து என்ன சொல்கிறது ஃபேஸ் பண்ண முடியுமா அப்படின்னு கேட்குறாங்க.
It's like a grenade.
Boom. It's a chicken and egg issue, and it's that your question lies at the core of that diagram, because, and for me personally, and I suspect for many others, the essence of what Mother foresaw as a potential in Auroville through this search for human unity was new ways of being together and making decision making. That, for me, that is our raison d'être in essence, amongst many other things. And now, with the pressure from the governing board, which is also understandable from some point of view, like, okay, we've been here 50 years, what have we done? We all know we've done a lot. But if we actually look at it from the decision-making point of view, one can say, well, we're not making maybe very clear decisions. But this diagram is highlighting the fact that whether we've got experts who are convinced they have the answers and it needs to be this way, or we have people caring for the environment to ignoring, perhaps, in some cases, the logic and the metaphysics, as it were, or we have somebody claiming, well, it absolutely has to be like this because Mother specifically said da-da-da-da, whatever. These forces are pulling apart. So since I've got my Citizens Assembly hat on today, the issue we face is we are the Citizens Assembly exploration team. We're not a group. We've not been formed by the community. We've simply come together as Aurovillians who are interested in Citizens Assembly as a model, who believe that there are aspects of Citizens Assembly model which might be useful to Auroville. So we're exploring that. And we did our water vision, Citizens Assembly, and now Citizens Assembly team helped with the Dreamweaving, and we'll go on and continue to help. But I know that there are people in the community asking, well, why aren't Citizens Assembly coming forward with proposals? Well, that's not our task. And we haven't been empowered by the community. And there are members of the community who even say, well, Citizens Assembly is not even the right model and we don't like a random selection of people. And this is one of the questions. So we're just constantly wading through the same questions and the same issues as a community. I don't have a clear answer for you, but because if anyone on this stage or anyone in this room would have an answer to this question, we would have solved something pretty significant as to what we're here to do as a collective. For me, that's the task of the collective. We have to somehow, whether it's with pressure from the governing board or just coming up from ourselves, bubbling up from below, whatever. I mean, whatever the triggers are, whatever the catalysts are, we are the crucible. We are the crucible which is supposedly generating these new ways of decision making. So it's a very long-winded answer, but I don't know what more to say.
ஸோ அவர் என்ன சொல்கிறாருன்னா ஆரோவில் உருவாக்கும் போது மதர் நினச்சது இந்த இடம் எப்படிப்பட்ட ஒரு இடமா இருக்கணும்னு நினச்ச போது அந்த ஒரு மையம் காட்டினாங்க இல்லையா, நம்ம எல்லாரும் ஒன்று சேர்ந்து முடிவெடுத்து எல்லாருமே அதில் பங்கேற்று இந்த இடத்த உருவாக்கணும் அப்படிங்கிறதா மதர் முக்கியமாக நினச்சாங்க அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அவர் நம்புகிறாரு. ஸோ இப்படி இருக்கிற சூழ்நிலையில் வெளிப்புறத்துலேருந்து ஒரு 50 வருஷமாக நம்ம இங்கே இருக்கோம். வெளிப்புறத்துலேருந்து அவர் இப்போ நம்மளோட கவர்னிங் போர்ட்லேருந்து நமக்கு ஒரு கேள்விகள் வருது, நம்ம என்ன பண்ணியிருக்கோம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு. அதில் ஒரு சில விஷயங்கள் இருந்தாலும், ஆனால் நமக்கு தெரியும் நம்ம நிறைய விஷயம் பண்ணியிருக்கோம், இந்த 50 வருஷமாக என்னெல்லாம் பண்ணியிருக்கோன்றது நமக்கு தெரியும். ஆனால் ஒரு நிர்வாகம் ஒரு முடிவு எடுக்க வேண்டிய ஒரு நிலையிலேருந்து அவங்க கேட்குறதுல ஏதாவது பாயிண்ட்ஸ் இருக்குது. ஸோ அப்படி இருக்கிற இந்த சூழ்நிலையில் பார்த்திங்கன்னா யார் இதை பண்ணுறது, எப்படி இதை முன்னாடி கொண்டு போகிறது அப்படிங்கிறதெல்லாம் அந்த மிடில் ஸ்பேஸ்லேருந்து எப்படி நம்ம ஆக்ட் பண்ணணும் அப்படிங்கிறதெல்லாம் பார்த்திங்கன்னா, ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் அவர் சிட்டிசன்ஸ் அசம்பிளியவே எடுத்துக்கிறாரு. சிட்டிசன்ஸ் அசம்பிளி டீம் அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு விஷயம் ஒரு 2 வருஷமாக 3 வருஷமாக நடந்துட்டுருக்கு. அவங்களும் சிட்டிசன்ஸ் அசம்பிளி நாங்கள் என்னமோ பண்ண போகிறோம் அப்படிங்கிறத சொல்லலை. அவங்களும் ஒரு முயற்சியாக தான் அதை பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க. சிட்டிசன்ஸ் அசம்பிளி எக்ஸ்ப்ளோரேஷன் டீம் அப்படி ஒரு முயற்சியாக தான் அதை பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க. ஸோ இது மாதிரி முயற்சிகள் நிறைய இருக்கணும். ஆனால் நீங்கள் கேட்ட கேள்விக்கு நம்ம இங்கே இருக்க யார்கிட்டயோ பதில் இருந்ததுன்னா மேபி நம்ம ஆல்ரெடி அந்த முயற்சிகளில் இருப்போம், அந்த வேலையை ஆல்ரெடி பண்ணிட்டு இருப்போம், நம்ம வேறு ஒரு இடத்துல இருப்போம் அப்படிங்கிறது அவர் சொல்கிறாரு. ஸோ கண்டிப்பாக இதுக்கான பதில் நேரடியாக யார்கிட்டையும் இல்லை. அவ்வளோதான் அவர் சொல்ல நினைக்கிறாரு.
So I will try to have a little bit different answer to this very challenging question. But first, I want to know who else still have a question. Lakshay, who else? Good. So we will. Yeah. So what do we do with? We have 2 more. Will we take this, or I just go and answer them? What to do? What? Okay. So we can take the answers.
Yeah.
So I am for taking the answers. Okay.
Yeah.
So your question is, until when this is going to happen? The stark answer is that hopefully forever. That doesn't mean that there is no work produced. Hopefully forever in the sense that the nature of cities, that they are always changing. If you have a camera over London, you will see it all the time fluxing in and out, right? So the planning and design process of cities, I used to live in Tokyo. Somebody told me, you know what is the oldest building in Tokyo? The age of it. I said, what? 35 years. Except some of the old temples that are left there. So planning process and design is always happening. And this is something that we have to understand when we look at the physical model of the city, which is static for 50 years. Guys, this is an image of something that inevitably is going to move, but it's just that it is indicative of a certain spirit that you have to follow. That's my understanding of it. But eventually, it's so complex socio-economic forces. Somebody's building a house, is adding a room for his daughter, somebody is adding a high building, somebody's starting a small shop, somebody else feels this is the right place, and it keeps fluxing like this. So hopefully for good, it become the culture of the places that people continuously work on this concept and continuously see how it moves dynamically. But at the same time, what we can do today is that doesn't mean there will need a production. Maybe in 2 months, maybe in 6 months, there will be something, right? Now, I always say the best plan is a plan that fits your capacity. Sometimes when you say, this is what we need, we are gonna do it in 2 months, and then you find it could be very depressing that the current capacity doesn't lead to this. What we are trying to do is to train our muscles. Remember that also Auroville at this stage, with all the cases, with all the decisions from the tribunal, you don't expect necessarily that something will, not necessarily, I do not know, this is something that still we have to see, but we keep training ourselves. As I said in several discussions, when we say, do we have a path for success? And my feeling is that no, we don't have a path of success clear, which is beautiful. It's like the most beautiful love is hopeless love. It's just you are just doing it because you are supposed to, hoping something is going to happen and open for door to it to happen. Until then, we are training ourselves and we are producing ideas. Hopefully, this simple diagram that we have created will grow into a strong team of planners working, good communication with the community. TDC is really is managing the process, and then we can say, yeah, this date will produce this date produce this. That is later. For now, it is just we testing our capacity to continue. The difference of this group of architects is that they really are diverse and have very different thoughts on how to proceed. And this is the beautiful part of it. And that's why if we manage to work for a longer term, that in itself is a milestone, is a success. Hopefully there will be something sooner than forever, but the aim of the process is to become the culture of the place to work together.
அவர் சொன்னது முக்கியமாக என்னென்னா மீதாவோட கேள்விக்கு பதிலாக வெளியில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா நகரங்கள் வெளியில் உள்ள எல்லா இடத்துலையும் நகரங்கள் வந்து ரொம்ப வேகமாக வந்து மாறிக்கிட்டே இருக்குது, வளர்ந்துக்கிட்டே இருக்குது, ஏதாவது விஷயங்கள் நடந்துக்கிட்டே இருக்குது. இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு சூழ்நிலையில் அதே மாதிரி தான் இங்கேயும் நடக்க போகுது. ஆரோவிலும் அதே மாதிரி தான் நடக்க போகுது. ஒரு விஷயம் பண்ணுற போது இன்னொரு விஷயம் நடக்கும் சைடில். ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி இருக்கிற போகிற சூழ்நிலையில் நம்ம என்ன நாளைக்கே கொண்டு வர போகிறோம். அதே மாதிரி இந்த நடந்துட்டு இருக்க சூழ்நிலையில் நிறைய கோர்ட்டில் கேசஸ்லாம் இருக்குது. இதெல்லாம் நமக்கு நாளைக்கு ஒரு பதிலை கொடுக்க போதா, ஒரு வெற்றி பாதையை காட்ட போதா அப்படின்னா இல்லை தான். ஆனால் இது என்ன, இந்த விஷயம் நம்ம வந்து ஒரு கொஞ்சம் வேகம் கம்மியான இருந்தாலுமே கொஞ்சம் அந்த இதில் பண்ண போகிறதுனால என்ன நம்ம பண்ண போகிறோம் அப்படின்னா நம்மளை நம்ம பலப்படுத்திக்க போகிறோம். இது வந்து நாளைக்கே நம்ம ஒன்று உருவாக்கி நாளைக்கே நமக்கு எல்லா பதிலும் கிடச்சிடும், ஓகே நமக்கு நம்ம அடுத்து என்னென்னு போகலாம், ஒரு தெளிவோடு போகலாம் அப்படிங்கிறது இல்லை. ஆனால் இந்த சூழ்நிலையை நம்ம பயன்படுத்தி நம்மளை மேலும் மேலும் பலப்படுத்திக்கணும். அந்த ஒரு வாய்ப்பாக நம்ம இதை பார்க்கணும். அப்படி பார்த்துட்டு இருக்கும்போது நமக்கு இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் தெளிவுகள் கிடைக்கும் போது இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் வருங்காலத்தில் நம்ம ஒரு டேட் சொல்லலாம். அவங்க கேட்ட மாதிரி, ஓகே இந்த டேட்டில் நம்ம இந்த ஒரு விஷயத்தை பண்ணி முடிப்போம், அதுக்கடுத்து அதை செயல்முறைப்படுத்துவோம் அப்படிங்கிற விஷயங்களை நம்ம அதுக்கப்புறம் தான் சொல்ல முடியும். அது வரைக்கும் நம்மளை பலப்படுத்துகிற இந்த வேலையை வந்து நம்ம பண்ணிக்கிட்டே இருக்கணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அவர் ஃபீல் பண்ணுறாரு.
Okay, we said we would answer questions that are put to us. Lakshay, 1, not 120, okay?
Well, it was 94 to be precise. All right. My first question, first of all, thanks for your beautiful film and also the panel discussion. I go back to the diagram like my previous, somebody who asked before me. The diagram is nice theoretically. You talk about sympathy as a first step, and then towards integration, and then somewhere along the line, an anticipation of finding joy. When you say you that's your focal point, that's what you have put in the center. But then, from my point of view, the way I see what you have done is contrary to what you are claiming to do. The first step in the dreamweaving process, tell me if I'm wrong, the first thought was you are declining to work with ATDC and superseding them and going and working directly with VSF. If you are sympathizing, if your stated aim is to sympathize with the people who perhaps may not walk the kind of same talk that you do, why not sympathize with them too? And then how do you then, once you deviated from that aspect, the aspiration of yours, then everything is like building on, false foundation. It's my view. So if you are really thinking about integrating, why not integrate with the people, the groups that perhaps may not do the same line that you do? And then you talked about reference to ATDC. I want to know very specifically which ATDC are you talking about? And some of you are donning this hat of also this Citizens Assembly exploration that you say. I want to know what was the need to explore a separate Citizens Assembly when we already have Residents Assembly? Why create a separate coterie? And then again, it becomes like a little club thing. Why do that? Why not strengthen the RAS? Why not make the Residents Assembly powerful? Why can't we do that under the umbrella of a Residents Assembly itself? So, thank you.
Can I ask?
By the way, my name is Venugopal. Last time somebody told somebody got to know my real name, I was evicted out of this place physically. So, official. But in Tamil, so I don't know whom we are speaking in Tamil for, perhaps for the YouTube audience. நான் என்ன சொல்ல வரேன்னா, நம்ம இந்த இன்க்ளூசிவிட்டின்னு சொல்கிறோம் அடிக்கடி. இன்க்ளூசிவ் அப்படின்னு நம்ம எதிர்பார்க்குறோம், எக்ஸ்க்ளூசிவாக இருக்கக்கூடாதுன்னு நினைக்கிறோம். அதே நேரத்தில் நம்ம பண்ணுற வேலைங்க எல்லாமே வெறும் ஒரு எக்ஸ்க்ளூசிவ், ஒரு கிளப் மாதிரி ஒரு ஆக்டிவிட்டியாக நம்ம பண்ணின்னு இருக்கோம். ஏன் நம்ம ஃபஸ்ட்டே ஆல்ரெடி இட்ஸ் எலிஃபெண்ட் இன் த ரூம். நம்ம கம்யூனிட்டி நல்லா டிவைட் பண்ணிட்டோம். ஒரு பக்கம் அந்த பக்கம் ஃபவுண்டேஷன், நம்ம பக்கம் ஃபாரஸ்டர் கம்யூனிட்டி அப்படின்னு சொல்லின்னு இருக்கோம். ஸோ இந்த ஒரு பிளாட்ஃபார்ம் நீங்கள் க்ரியேட் பண்ணுறீங்க, இதை ட்ரீம் வீவிங்னு சொல்கிறீங்க. ஸோ உங்களோட கனவை நீங்கள் ஒன்று சேர்க்கணும்னு நினைக்கிறப்போ, ஏன் எதிர்பார்ட்டி நீங்கள் யார் எதிரின்னு நினைக்கிறீங்களோ அவங்களோட கனவுகளை பற்றி ஏன் கேட்க மாட்டீங்க, அவங்கக்கிட்ட ஏன் ரீச் அவுட் பண்ண மாட்டீங்க அப்படின்ற ஒரு சின்ன கேள்வி. ரெண்டாவது, ரெசிடென்ட்ஸ் அசம்பிளின்னு இருக்கிறப்போ நம்ம ஏன் இன்னொரு தனியான ஒரு குழு, அது பேர் தமிழில் எப்படி சொல்கிறதுன்னு தெரில, பட் அவங்க ஒரு தனியாக ஒரு குழு சிட்டிசன்ஸ் அசம்பிளி அப்படின்னு ஒன்று ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணி அதை ஏன் நடத்தணுன்ற, எதுக்கு அவங்களுக்கு ஒரு தேவை ஏற்பட்டது அப்படின்னு ஒரு கேள்வி. ரொம்ப நன்றி.
Okay, there are 3 questions. I guess...
first of all, Lakshay, we welcome very much your questions. Yeah. Next.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the first question is basically, if we're talking about, in terms of the diagram, sympathy and empathy, inclusiveness, was it the case that the Dreamweaving initially from the beginning actually did not deal or interact with the ATDC appointed by the Foundation Office? That's the first question. Secondly, which TDC are we referring to in our discussions? And the third one regards the Citizens Assembly concept. Why is there a need for a Citizens Assembly as such? Does the Citizens Assembly actually not take power away from the Residents Assembly? If I'm summarizing that correctly. Laksha, you still here? Okay. Okay. Yeah, you're taking the first one?
The first one is our collaboration with the previous ETDC. Okay. First of all, Lakshay, thank you for your questions. Let's imagine that we didn't collaborate with the ETDC, or we did not try to collaborate with the ETDC. Let's imagine that. It's okay, because in any system, let's say governmental institution, there will be somebody who take the role of a municipality, and there are also non-governmental organizations. So there is one thing that we have to understand. Members of the Resident Assembly has the simple role of taking initiatives, and then whatever succeed, official bodies can see, oh, this is a good one, let's use it, this is a good one, let's encourage it. So it's not necessity that any work has to happen through the formal. many of the amazing work in communities, in societies, or even on the government, on a country level, happen on very informal and non-governmental level. But that was not the truth. You are bringing me to a territory that I have been really trying to avoid coming to, because we feel that there is enough pull out, let's say, and we did not want to go there. But since you have asked the question, I have to answer. There is, Lakshya, there are a series of emails that proves, even when you were at the ETDC, that we sent August 2021. Get back to your email. You will find an email in which we have been preparing initially for the process. We sent to you the diagram, and we sent to you saying, let's have a workshop together to prepare the brief. Or you prepare the brief, or we prepare the brief, and then you are giving us a comment. So we started actually coming to you and saying, let's do it together. That was towards the end of August 2021. The reply was, no, you do not do the brief. We do the brief. Then after 3 months, nothing. No communication, nothing. Until things started happening at the youth center. And then we had no chance, but we felt a lost chance. Maybe we could have found a solution, and we really felt bad about it, and we started coming back again. And at that moment, Srivasta said, okay, guys, I'm going to write okay, guys, in a meeting. And I remember at that time, Dr. Ravi, the secretary of Auroville, was there and said, you guys go and write the brief, so to start. And I had no choice but to do it myself. This is after 3 months of waiting for the ETDC to prepare. And we felt like this is more a friction than support. Like we were asking. And then since then, every event we have been sending emails inviting. Only Srivasta attended some of them. The rest did not attend. Every time, those who are on this side, like the current, for example, the current appointed ETDC head of planning, have been invited to give 3 lectures. At the end, she said no, and then she went to Germany, called me and said, yes, I have given her my spot to give the lecture. She came to the lecture, and she has spoken of more, the approach is top-down approach. All the architects felt very bad because we are trying to create a process of collaboration, and a member of at that time, I don't remember if she is already in TDC or not, coming and saying, no, top-down approach. So it's like you are invited to a collaborative process. And this keeps coming again and again and again. And anytime the ETDC invite us to discuss anything, nothing. One invitation in which we were received extremely rough, and it was, we want you to sign on this paper, and we felt this is not the way to go. So our experience was really not positive. On the contrary, we tried again and again and again. And by the way, I'm only saying this because you asked the question and I have to answer. I was trying as much as I can to avoid, because we want to reduce this and increase getting this, and we are sincere about it. What else? I mean, I can go for this for some more time, but yeah, I think it's enough. Yeah, we really tried. Thank you.
அவர் கேட்ட முதல் கேள்விக்கான பதில், ஆக்சுவலி பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இது வந்து ஆகஸ்ட் 2021 இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு ட்ரீம் வீவிங் ப்ராசஸ் பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லும்போது க்ரௌனுக்கு அந்த சுருக்கம் நான் சொன்னேன் ஒரு ப்ராஜெக்ட் ப்ரீஃப் அதை எழுதணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அது வந்து முன்னாள் ஏடிடிசி அப்போ இருந்தவங்க, அப்போ வந்து லக்ஷ்யம் ஏடிடிசியில் இருந்திருக்காரு. ஸோ அப்போது ஒமார் அவங்க வந்து அவங்கக்கிட்ட கேட்டிருக்காங்க, ஒரு அந்த ப்ரீஃபை ரெடி பண்ணுங்கள், அது இருந்தால் தான் நம்மளால் எதையாவது ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ண முடியும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு கேட்கும்போது, சரி ஓகே பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஆகஸ்ட்டில் ஒரு மீட்டிங்கில் முடிவு பண்ணதுக்கப்புறம் எதுவுமே நடக்கலை. 3 மாதமாக ஒரு ப்ரீஃப் வந்து அங்கேருந்து வரவே இல்லை. அப்படி இருக்கும்போது அந்த 3 மாதம் கழித்து டிசம்பரில் யூத் சென்டரில் மரங்கள் அது எல்லாமே வெட்டப்பட்ட அந்த சூழ்நிலையில், நான் ஒரு வாய்ப்பு தவற விட்டுட்டோமோ, மறுபடியும் இதை வந்து வேறு மாதிரி இதுக்கு ஒரு பதிலெலாம் சொல்லி நம்ம வேறு மாதிரி இதை வந்து நடத்திருக்கலாமே, இது இப்படி ஆயிடுச்சு அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு, சரி இதை இனிமேல் நம்ம எடுத்துகிட்டு போகணும் அப்படிங்கிறதுக்காக இன்னொரு மீட்டிங், ஏதோ ஒரு மீட்டிங் நடந்தபோது அதில் செக்ரட்டரி டாக்டர் ஜெயந்தி ரவியும் இருந்திருக்காங்க. அப்போது அவங்க சொன்னாங்க, சரி நீங்கள் போய் உடனடியாக இதுக்கு ஒரு ப்ரீஃபை ரெடி பண்ணுங்கள், நம்ம இதை ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு. அப்படி இருக்கும்போது வேறு வழி இல்லாமல் ஒமார் தான் வந்து அந்த ப்ரீஃப் எழுத வேண்டியதாக இருந்தது. அதை அவர் பண்ணார். அப்படி அதுக்கப்புறம் இந்த ட்ரீம் வீவிங் ப்ராசஸ்க்காக அவங்கள இன்வைட் பண்ணுறதுலேருந்து இந்த ட்ரீம் வீவிங் ப்ராசஸில் ஒரு சார்ட்லாம் காமிச்சாங்க இல்லையா, அது எல்லாமே வந்து அவங்களுக்கு ஷேர் பண்ணிகிட்டே தான் இருந்திருக்காங்க இமெயிலில். ஸோ எல்லாத்தையும் எடுத்து பார்த்தா எல்லாத்துக்கான ஆதாரங்களும் இருக்குதுன்னு சொல்கிறாரு. அதே மாதிரி ஸ்ரீவத்சா மட்டும்தான் அந்த நேரத்தில் ETDCயில் இருந்த ஸ்ரீவத்சா மட்டும்தான் இந்த ட்ரீம் வீவிங் நடந்த ஒரு சில இதிலெல்லாம் பங்கேற்றார். மற்றபடி வேறு யாருமே அதுலேருந்து வந்து இங்கே பங்கேற்கவே இல்லை. ஸோ இப்படி ஒமர் ஃபீல் பண்ணுறது என்னென்னா, இந்த விஷயங்கள் வந்து அவர் வந்து ஷேர் பண்ணணும்னு நினைக்கவே இல்லை. இதை தாண்டி நம்ம வேறு ஒரு இடத்துக்கு போகணும், அவங்க சொன்ன அந்த மையப்பகுதிக்கு போகணும், அதை நோக்கி நம்ம பேசணும் அப்படிங்கிறது தான் அவர் நினச்சார். ஆனால் அந்த கேள்வி வந்ததுனால அதுக்கான பதிலும் கொடுக்க வேண்டியதாக இருக்குது. ஸோ இந்த உண்மைகள் இதுதான் உண்மைகள், இதுதான் நடந்தது அப்படிங்கிறத அவர் வந்து சொல்கிறார்.
Thank you. Citizens Assembly.
Well, there was a second question. The second question, the answer to the second question is based on pretty much what Omar was just describing, that of course we're collaborating with the TDC of the Residents' Assembly because there is the sense of collaboration. If the other TDC would give the impression that they collaborate, we would probably try and work with them too. The third question, which is Citizens' Assembly Exploration Group, if the Citizens' Assembly Exploration Group were trying to compete with the Residents' Assembly, we would have called ourselves the brand new super good Residents' Assembly and not Citizens' Assembly Exploration Group. We specifically called ourselves that because we want to explore whether the Citizens' Assembly can actually help to empower the Residents' Assembly. And I can't say any more than that because otherwise I'm going to get quite worked up.
அவர் என்ன சொல்கிறாருன்னா, அந்த ரெண்டாவது கேள்வி ஏன் டிடிசியோட ஒன்று சேர்ந்து ஒர்க் பண்ணல. ரெசிடென்ஸ் அசம்பிளி தேர்வு செய்த டிடிசியோட அவங்க கொலாபரேட் பண்ணிட்டு தான் இருக்காங்க. அதே மாதிரி இன்னொரு டிடிசி இருக்குது அப்படின்னு சொன்னாங்கன்னா அவங்களும் கொலாபரேட் பண்ணுற அந்த ஓப்பன்னஸ் காமிச்சாங்கன்னா கண்டிப்பாக கொலாபரேட் பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறாரு. அடுத்த கேள்வியான சிட்டிசன்ஸ் அசம்பிளி பற்றின கேள்வி, ஏன் அது வந்து ரெசிடென்ட் அசம்பிளி இருக்கிற போது அது ஏன் நடக்குது அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு. ஸோ அதுக்கு அவர் என்ன சொல்கிறாரு, ரெசிடென்ட் அசம்பிளியோட வந்து போட்டி போடுறதுக்கான ஒரு எண்ணத்தோட அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு விஷயம் ஆரம்பிச்சிருந்தா அதுக்கு வந்து சிட்டிசன்ஸ் அசம்பிளின்னு பேர் எக்ஸ்ப்ளோரேஷன் குரூப்னு பேர் வச்சுருக்க தேவையில்லை. ஒரு புதுமையான ஒரு ரெசிடென்ட் அசம்பிளி அந்த மாதிரி ஏதாவது வச்சு ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணியிருந்துருக்கலாம். பட் ஆனால் அது வந்து நம்மளை எப்படி பலப்படுத்திக்கணும் இந்த ப்ராசஸில் அப்படிங்கிறதுக்காக உருவாக்கப்பட்ட விஷயமே தவிர ரெசிடென்ட் அசம்பிளி அப்படிங்கிற அந்த அந்த பெரிய குழு அதோட வந்து போட்டி போடணுங்கிற எண்ணத்தோடு கிடையாது. அது மட்டும்தான் இப்போ சொல்ல விரும்புகிறார் அவர்.
Thank you. I think unless somebody can't sleep, already you can't sleep. Okay, come on, already. Brief question. Oh, I think the microphone's not on, is it?
If I remember correctly, about 15 years ago, David and some of his friends put up a Dreamcatcher's presentation at Certitude. I attended it in the evening, and I felt as if I was entering into a different zone, different environment. Such a beautiful energy, such a beautiful goodwill, as if you feel confident that a new kind of Auroville, a unique city is possible, something you cannot find anywhere else. Such a wonderful flight of imagination, new ideas, new presentations. So I got motivated. I become a member of the regular attendant, 6 o'clock in the morning. I will go to attend this Dreamcatchers meeting. I will write a report. And I saw a lot of possibilities in this whole endeavor, this activity. I encouraged it. I wrote in support of it in Oronet that Dreamcatcher should have its own campus, and this activity should get all support, all encouragement. Today, when David says that we are more of an exploratory nature to find a new kind of decision making, I find they have forgotten the path. They are not on the right track. That is what I feeling it. Dream catchers or dream weaving, purpose of that should come up with a solid proposal, concrete proposal, new ideas, new visions. This is what can come. And then you put together all these ideas, all your visions, solid, concrete, solid proposals, and then land with expert committee or a knowledgeable committee or a selected committee, choose this is our idea, let this happen in matter. This is what I call the right path to dream catchers. To go for a new kind of decision making is not your job. That is the job of another people, another group, another people. Today I came to this meeting with the idea that I will get a new proposal. I will get a new solid ideas. They have worked a lot, months and months and months, and now they are going to present their result, final result, which I can connect, which I can see in context of the Auroville master plan, in context of what these NGT people are going to do. They have made some proposal. No, 11, here you expand the path, here don't expand it, here you make 11 meters. I thought I will be able to relate to all these things with some solid proposal coming, but there was nothing of it. They only said what they have done, and they endorsed that this is beautiful, very collaborative, we are on the right path, we are endorsing it. It is some sort of a self-endorsement without what Mita said, without where it is going to end, where it is going to come out. So my request to you is come out with a solid proposal and let people, select people, choose it and present it and put it in context of other proposals. Since this, what is this body? Dosis body. This dosis group, you say they are out, they are not more in it. So now who is going to take the decision? This which particular board? Yeah. Yeah, so I want you to come out with solid proposal and let expert people or select people take decision. Thank you very much.
ஸோ அவர் என்ன கேட்குறாருன்னா, ட்ரீம் கேச்சர்ஸ் வந்து 15 வருஷத்துக்கு முன்னாடி வந்து சர்டிடியூடில் டேவிட் வந்து பண்ணி ஒரு ப்ரெசன்டேஷன் கொடுத்தாங்க. அப்போ பார்த்தீங்கன்னா அவர் வந்து வேற ஒரு உலகத்தில் இருந்த மாதிரி ஒரு ஃபீலிங் அவருக்கு கிடச்சிருக்கு. அதை பார்க்கும்போது இதுதான் வழி ஆரோவில் முன்னாடி போகிறதுக்கு அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அப்படி நினச்சாரு. இத்தனை வருஷம் கழித்து அதை சப்போர்ட் பண்ணி நிறைய இடத்துலையும் அவர் பேசியிருக்காரு, சொல்லியிருக்காரு. இன்றைக்கி பார்த்திங்கன்னா மறுபடியும் ட்ரீம் வீவிங் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு சொல்லும்போது அவங்க வந்து அதை இது ஒரு முயற்சி அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி சொல்கிறாங்க. அது வந்து அவர் சரியான பாதையில் இது போகலை அப்படின்ற மாதிரி நினைக்கிறாரு. ஏன்னா அவர் என்ன நமக்கு சொல்கிறாருன்னா, நீங்கள் இது ஒரு முயற்சி, நாங்கள் ஐடியாஸ் கொடுத்தோம், இந்த மாதிரி பண்ணோம், இது அழகாக இருந்தது, இப்படியெல்லாம் சொல்லாமல் மீதா கேட்ட மாதிரி இதுதான் ஒரு கடைசி ப்ரப்போசல் அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு ஏதாவது ஒரு திடமாக ஒரு இதை காட்டினோடனே அதை ஒரு எக்ஸ்பர்ட்ஸ் கிட்ட காட்டி இதை சரி ஓகே இதை நம்ம செயல்முறை கொண்டு வரலாம் அப்படின்னு ஒரு முடிவு எடுக்கிற மாதிரி ஒரு சூழ்நிலைக்கு இதை கொண்டு வரணும். அப்படி வந்தால் தான் அது சரியான பாதையில் போகிறதா அர்த்தம் அப்படின்னு அவர் ஃபீல் பண்ணுறாரு. அதை கேள்வியாகவும் முன்வைக்கிறார்.
I think there are two questions here. One, the last one was why this did not lead to one solid idea, according to you. And the first one, why you are exploring decision making while your job is to bring solid ideas. I think, can I try to help you with this? Yeah, David was speaking about the citizens' assembly, and you are speaking about the dream catching and the dream weaving. This is one of the things that we have noticed here in Auroville, is this mix of these expressions. When David was speaking about the exploratory group of the citizen assembly, he was not speaking at all of we are exploring for the dream weaving. This is a very different process. So please, it has to be clear which you are mixing two processes. The issue of the solid idea, actually we did stop it. Actually, this is part that most of the community don't understand. The process aim was to bring pool of ideas to be sent to the experts, so it becomes the voice of Auroville that would help them develop. Now, why we insisted, in the last week we had this discussion. They were saying, the architects were saying, we can sit and make this as one design. Let's try. I was one of those who objected to this personally, because why? Because the agreement with the Vastu Shilpa at that moment is that we are bringing different, diverse idea that represents the voices of Auroville to be implemented in their work. What if we actually pushed it to one idea? Notice that we are still working on a level while not all the studies are ready. Not all the bioregional studies are ready. Not all the water studies, not everything is so clear. We don't have all the topographical maps. We don't have all the positioning of the flora and the nature of fauna. So what if we come with one proposal? As many Aurovillians keep asking, where is the one proposal? And then the experts take that one proposal, look at the situation on the ground, and find there is some problem it doesn't fit. The whole process becomes not very useful to the experts. This is why, and this is the one thing the Aurovillians are missing. It was intentional to keep it at varied pool of ideas level, because that was the aim. The problem is not accepting external experts. So no matter what, we have history of many external experts coming to Auroville and asked out. The phenomenal case of Doshi asked out twice. This is the first time in history a Pritzker Prize winner, who is like the equal of Nobel, get kicked out twice. So the issue is not the present. We can easily get the external experts. Auroville is an amazing challenge. They would love to work on it. We have to be accepting. Yeah.
But on mental level, if you go on discussing it,
Okay.
you are keeping it, it will be endless, and you have to come to some point where you present all the material and somebody can take decision.
Yeah, but this is not us. Yeah, I mean, we are not the one who made it difficult for the Vastu Shilpa. Go and ask whoever made like this for the Vastu Shilpa why we are not accepting external experts. This is not for us. We are doing our part until there are external experts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hinduja?
Yeah.
Translation, and then maybe we'll finish.
No, but there was one question that was not so clear in our answer when Lakshay said, why this TDC and not that ATDC? Is the answer, because I was not clear, are he speaking about the today division of ATDC and TDC, or the previous ATDC and the today? Yeah, because there is a little bit different answer. Please communicate this to Lakshay. No, it's not. Then I disagree a little bit, because it's not only the issue of they are opening for collaboration and they are not opening for collaboration. It's not only that. I'm somebody who lived in several countries. I have been in academia for some time. And the amazing part of an international society in academia is that you have all of these people of international cultures, but there is a clear hierarchy of a system that maintain the place easily governed, correct? The only place I have seen an international community living without a clear hierarchical system governing it is Auroville. So this is for me very personal. It is very integral part of this experiment. How we are gonna find an economy, how we are the economy that suits us, how we are gonna, and we are failing big sometimes and succeeding sometimes because it's a hell of a challenge that I didn't see anywhere else. How can a society of all different body language, different languages, different understanding of life, different cultures can still find solutions to organize? So when it comes to ETDC appointed, ETDC selected by Aurovillians, I have my own with all due respect to others, we disagree. I am somebody who see the experiment the governance, the self-organizing at the core of this experiment. Otherwise, it's a place that this is not what I came for. Now, if we are not doing it, we did not do it in the same quality that we wanted to. Yeah, because it's also a hell of a challenge, but we want to keep trying until we find something no one else has seen, or at least to keep trying. So when I am choosing, it's not about these people in this ETDC, these people in the TDC. I am very clear that when it comes to the issue of experimental organization, I am on the side of trying to self-organize. So I am, as my position, a member of the Auroville Resident Assembly, I am collaborating with those who I have been allowed to select myself. Simple. Even if that's it. And when it comes to planning, that's why I said when I was speaking about planning, in planning we have plenty of space to find the space in between. But when it comes to the issue of self-organizing, it's very simple. This is a human experiment, or this will shift to a big real estate development project? So I have no choice. I am on the side of the experiment. That is, I hope that becomes very clear. Here, unfortunately, we are not given much space of a space in between. It's either this or this. Like if somebody came and said, we are helping you to have better governance until you take a step, and that's it. We will let you continue. Then they are giving us, then we are given a space in between. But we are not. It's very clear that we are not given that space in between, and I personally have no choice, according to my even clear position as a member of the Auroville Resident Assembly, is that I'm more open to collaboration with the groups I have been part of selecting. Even if we keep doing mistakes a little bit, hopefully we'll find a way. Yeah.
Okay. ஆரியதீப்போட கேள்விக்கு அவர் சொன்ன பதில், அவர் வந்து கேட்டார் ஒரு பிளான் இல்லை, ஒரு ப்ரொப்போசல் இல்லை அப்படின்னு. ஒமார் சொல்கிற பதில் என்னென்னா, இந்த ப்ராசஸ் மூலமா ஒரு பிளான் பண்ணணும் அப்படிங்கிறது அதோட நோக்கமாக இல்லவே இல்லை. பலதரப்பட்ட ஐடியாஸ் எல்லாத்தையும் ஒரு திரட்டாக கொடுக்கணும் அப்படிங்கிறது மட்டும்தான் இந்த ப்ராசஸோட நோக்கமாக இருந்தது. இதை வந்து நம்ம தெளிவாக தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும். ஒரு கட்டத்தில் வந்து எல்லா ஆர்கிடெக்ட்ஸும் சேர்ந்து சரி எல்லாமே ஐடியாஸ் ஓரளவுக்கு ஒரு மாதிரி தான் இருக்குது, கொஞ்சம் இதை சேர்த்து ஒரு ப்ரப்போசலாக ஆக்கலாமே அப்படின்னு சொன்னப்போ சொன்னது என்னென்னா, இல்லை, ஏன்னா இது வந்து ஒரு விஷயமாக ஆக்கிட்டோம்னா அதோட அழகு, அதோட எசன்ஸை மொத்தம் நம்ம இழந்துருவோம், அது வந்து ஃபிட் ஆகாது. ஆனால் பட் அது பலதரப்பட்ட பன்முகத்தன்மையோடு இருக்கும் போது அது எல்லா விஷயத்துக்கும் ஒரு பதில் கொடுக்கும். ஸோ அதுதான் வந்து அதுதான் இருக்கணும், இது வந்து ஒரு ப்ரப்போசலாக கொடுக்கறதுக்கான நோக்கம் இல்லாமல் தான் இருக்கணும் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி சொன்னார். அதுக்கடுத்து பார்த்திங்கன்னா, ஸோ அவர் கேட்ட எக்ஸ்பர்ட்ஸ் வெளியிலேருந்து வாஸ்து ஷில்பா தவிர வேறு யாரையாவது கூட, ஆக்சுவலி வெளியில் பார்த்திங்கன்னா ரொம்ப திறமை உள்ள நிறைய பேர் வெளியில் இருக்காங்க, அவங்களோடலாம் சேர்ந்து நம்ம வேலை செய்யலாம். பட் ஆனால் நம்ம ஆரோவில்ல இருந்த ஒரு பழைய சூழ்நிலை என்னென்னா, வெளியிலேருந்து யார் எப்போ வரும்போதும் அவங்கள நம்ம ரொம்ப வரவேற்கவே இல்லை. அவங்க பார்த்திங்கன்னா இப்போ பிவி தோஷி அவர்களை கூட 2 தடவை இந்த வாட்டி அவர் வந்து உள்ளே வரதாக இருந்தது, பட் ஆனால் அவர் கடைசியில் இல்லை. இது மாதிரி வந்து பல தடவை நடந்திருக்கு. ஸோ அப்படி இருக்கும்போது வெளியில் இருக்கவங்க எத்தனையோ பேர் இருக்காங்க, ஆனால் நம்மளுடைய எண்ணம் தான் மாறணும். நம்மளுடைய அவங்கள எப்படி நம்ம ட்ரீட் பண்ணுறோம், அவங்கள எப்படி நம்ம உள்ளே எடுத்துக்கிறோம் அப்படிங்கிற நம்மளுடைய எண்ணம் தான் மாற வேண்டியிருக்கு அப்படிங்கிறதையும் அவர் சொல்கிறாரு. அப்புறம் லக்ஷய் கேட்ட கேள்வி, எந்த டிடிசிக்கு சப்போர்ட், எந்த டிடிசியோடு நீங்கள் வந்து ஒன்றா சேர்ந்து ஒர்க் பண்ணுறீங்க அப்படின்னு இருக்கும்போது அவர் என்ன சொல்கிறாரு, நான் பலதரப்பட்ட சிட்டிஸ்லலாம் இருந்திருக்கேன், ஆனால் ஆரோவிலோட ஒரு தனித்துவம் என்னென்னா, எந்த ஒரு நான் உயர்ந்தவன் நீ தாழ்ந்தவன் அந்த மாதிரியெல்லாம் எந்த ஒரு சிஸ்டமும் இல்லாமல் எல்லாரும் சேர்ந்து தாங்களே நிர்வகிச்சுக்கிற ஒரு முயற்சி இந்த இடத்துல நடந்துட்டுருக்கு. அப்படி இருக்கும்போது அதாவது அவர் சொல்கிறாரு, தனக்கு செலக்ட் பண்ண உரிமை கிடைச்ச ஒரு குரூப் அவங்களோட தான் வந்து நான் ஒத்துழைக்கிறதுக்கு நான் வந்து முயற்சி பண்ணுவேனே தவிர, அதை உடைக்கிற மாதிரி வர வேறு எந்த முயற்சிகளாக இருந்தாலும் நான் நான் அதை வந்து சப்போர்ட் பண்ண மாட்டேன். ஸோ என்னோட உரிமையை நிலைநாட்டுற வேலைகள், மனிதர்கள், அதுக்கப்புறம் ப்ராசஸ், இது எல்லாத்தையும் தான் நான் சப்போர்ட் பண்ணுவேன் அப்படின்றத அவரோட பர்சனலாக அவர் சொல்கிறார்.
Thank you very much. I think you've been very patient. Thank you. We hope we've brought inspiration as well as clarification. I want to thank the panel and Indudra team for organizing this whole thing. I thought I could end, maybe as we always should end, with a quote from Mother, which has always sort of struck me. She was once asked about what is the spirit of Auroville. And some of you may have seen that painting that Huta did of this. I don't know if it was Huta who asked the question. And she had a very simple phrase, which could almost be the motto of what we're trying to do here, which was, she said, the spirit of Auroville is the art of creating unity out of complexity. And I thought it was marvelous. It just kind of, it incorporates and encloses so much of what we're trying to do, so many of the challenges, but so much of the beauty of this experiment. So thank you very much for coming, all of you. Safe journey home. That is, if you have a home to go to, maybe some of you wish to stay, that's also fine, but we will lock the doors. Thank you.